welcome to the 443rd episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is an awesome supporter of the show. You can be a supporter and be awesome by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit to the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I've been doing a lot of DC Comics Silver Age lookbacks at these weird, goofy, classic covers with like weird stories that are somehow explained. You know, Superman's killing someone, someone's happening. They're weird, they're fun. I love them. This next week, I'm hoping to do another off of mine. I want to try to do it like at least like one a month. So we'll see about that. And since it's, I think it's like the 400th episode of the secret podcast from Heck. So we have that. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. As you can hear, my throat is a little better. Every once in a while, I still kind of get like a random like tickle, annoying, whatever. But oh my gosh, last week was horrible. I was like pausing so many times to cough, and yeah, so it's gotten better now. We'll see where we're at. What is happening on this week's show? The movie feature is Psycho Killer, and to be perfectly honest, I haven't really thought about how I feel about that yet. So by the time we get there, I'm sure I'll come up with something. But yeah, definitely. I need to think about that. There's stuff to say about that. We have Wonder Man. Wonder Man, we had the flashback episode where we reached the 4th episode. So if you watched the series or ahead of me or keeping up with me, you know what I'm talking about. Then we'll have another Hijack. Things are getting crazy. And I debated about this. So there's a new show on Prime with Dove Cameron called 56 Days, and I think they're calling it an erotic thriller. As I was watching it, I'm a fan of Dove Cameron. You know, I think I first became aware of her on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when she played Rose, and I know she was on, I keep asking my daughter, I think it was Liv and Maddie. I think that's what she said. It was a Disney show. And she was also in that Descendants. I don't know if she only did 2 movies. I don't know how many there were. I know my daughter watched the first one. I don't know if she watched the second one or not. And you know, she's an artist. She's a singer, and I think she's very talented. And this is definitely a departure from what she's done before. And as I was watching, I was like, I don't know about this. But then that first episode, I was like, I don't know about this. So we'll talk more about that later. All episodes for that are out on Prime. So you know that's the part that always bothers me, because then it's like, should I still talk about this weeks, you know, after they've all been out? But we'll see how it goes. And then we also have comics and the news. And speaking of comics, I mean, having some more publisher issues. All I'll say is, I was supposed to have conversations with one of the publishers, and I get that things happen, you know, that's totally fine, but it basically, it's like 2 days where it's like, okay, we're going to talk, and so let's get into the news. Let's not worry about that. Speaking of news, or of comics, I guess we'll start with this. There is apparently going to be an Absolute Green Arrow comic and an Absolute Catwoman. I don't have the information. I got an email about it. It's on a DC blog or something like that. What I do know about Absolute Green Arrow is I'm pretty sure they're listing that as a miniseries, which I think is good. I think, you know, if we're adding more Absolute Comics, I think people are digging it. Not me particularly, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be for me. But I think people are enjoying them. But the thing is, when we have absolute Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Flash, and Martian Manhunter, right? Those are the only ones. I don't know how all of them are doing. I've been seeing, absolute Batman has been reprinting, selling out, whatever, many times. I don't know what the print runs have been, whatever. Wonder Woman's been great. I think Superman's doing fine. I don't hear a lot of people talking about Flash or Martian Manhunter. I don't know, but maybe I'm just like not scouring the comic message boards or whatever to see what people are saying about those. So we got 5 books at least. I feel like there could be more. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting something. And if you're all of a sudden going to start adding more, I think you got to be careful with that, because I don't think while this imprint, whatever you want to call it, it's still fairly new. It's only, I think it's been less than a couple years, right? You don't want to have a book with that ends up having to get canceled because of low sales or whatever. So I think what the smart thing would be to do is test the waters. Bill it as a miniseries, and then if the demand is there, people are like, "Oh yeah, this is great." If it sells through the roof, then you feel like let's extend it, and just leave it like that. Or like what it seems like they do a lot of times, and by they, I don't know if it's more of a Marvel thing or if DC, whoever does it. A lot of times there'll be a series, and then it ends up it's like, yep, that's it. It was a miniseries, even though it was never listed as a miniseries, but then maybe necessarily wasn't listed as an ongoing. It's a little tricky, but you got to do what you got to do. But with Green Arrow, man, I don't remember who's writing it now. I don't have any of that information. I'm not going to pause to look it up because I'm too lazy, and I feel like that. I feel like it's disingenuine. I feel like it just interrupts the flow, whatever. What I do recall is they're saying that it might be a little more violent, okay, and it seems like a bunch of billionaires are getting killed. And who could possibly be killing? Could it be Green Arrow killing these billionaires? He's always been, even though he was a billionaire, right? He's kind of hypocritical, but he's always about the fat cats and everything like that. So apparently these victims have green arrows sticking out of them. So is he actually doing it? Is someone framing him for some reason? Does he even exist? Because how can you frame someone who is not around? I don't know. So we have that. And then Absolute Catwoman, I don't know. Is that going to be a spinoff of Absolute Batwoman? Because we have Selena. I don't know. I know nothing. So we have that. Other new comic news that you could be really excited for. I haven't read. I saw it. I got an email for this. I was like, what's going on? Jay and Silent Bob in the Marvel Universe. And it's like, why? I mean, if it's like a one shot, that's fine. Miniseries, okay, I really should look this stuff up. But they were in that Spider-Man comic that Kevin Smith wrote, which I think I have a lot of respect for Kevin Smith. I think he's a brilliant writer. I think he can be hilarious. I haven't been a huge fan of his comics though, which is weird. A lot of times it feels like, I don't know, it feels like the jokes just don't work. Or maybe his humor, in my opinion, just doesn't fit with the general Marvel, whatever, aesthetics. Because that Spider-Man story, it just, and Spider-Man's supposed to be a corny guy. He's always cracking jokes, but it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. And that's just my opinion. We'll see. Will I read it? Probably. I did think that the Jay and Silent Bob and Archie whatever crossover, I think that was only one issue. I only read one issue. I felt like that worked. That felt like they made it fit in. And I have a lot of respect for the Archie. I think I mentioned the Archie versus Army of Darkness. I love that book. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I talked about that. I think they just made the crossover as the setup. It was like, dare I say, perfect. I mean, it just fit. It didn't feel forced or anything like that. Now with Jay and Silent Bob, yeah, you got two guys wandering. We'll see. I don't know anything more than that. Variety apparently reported that the Man of Tomorrow movie, the Superman Lex Luthor movie, that Man of Tomorrow, that they were changing the name to Superman Man of Tomorrow. And then James Gunn says, like, no, that's a mistake on Variety's part. And he says that he tries to avoid colons in titles. He doesn't like them there. They also said that production starts in a few weeks. And he's like, well, if you're going literally, like by few, he's like, no. And he was talking about, he was saying that, he mentioned something about the pre-production. And his quote was something like, it was like several months. And I don't know if that means he's been doing several months of pre-production or they're going to start shooting in several, I don't know. And this is the thing, Variety is like a legit news source, and they're getting the information wrong. This is a frustrating thing. Now, when I do these news recaps, I'm just looking around trying to find, whatever news. There's so much that I'm seeing now is like report, rumor, scooper. And it's just like, no one is getting actual news anymore or putting out actual news. It's all speculation. And I think part of it is because, everyone wants to be first. Everyone wants to be different. There's so much of what I call the copy and paste reporting, which in a sense, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not, going to like lie about that, whatever. I am not getting any scoops here. I'm not seeking any scoops. I don't try to get any scoops. I could be trying to reach out, do this, but I don't have the time or the bandwidth to do that. So yeah, I'm doing the copy paste reporting. So a lot of people are doing that. It's the same stuff that you see everywhere. Someone's like, Tom Cruise is going to be in the Spider-Man movie. Everyone's reporting about that. That's not true. don't. I'm not scooping that right there. So it's, people are trying to, I get it. They're trying to separate themselves from everyone else, but yeah, you I don't know. You just got to be careful because people get snatched. They glom onto a little tidbit and then, that's not true. Oh, more comic news. I forgot to mention this. There's going to be some Star Wars Rogue One prequel comics. So I guess the anniversary is coming up. And there's going to be an Andor comic, Cassian Andor. There's going to be Jyn Erso. There's going to be a Saw Gerrera. There's going to be a Chirrut and Baz. Poor guys, they have to share their prequel comic. They don't get their own. And then there's a Darth Vader comic. It's like, come on, Darth Vader. You've had how many? You've had at least two series recently, and then now you got to steal the Chirrut and Baz. They can't even get their own comic yet. You're taking one of the spots. So okay, whatever. That's fine. I'll read those. I just hope they're good. Because, I like the Star Wars comics. Sometimes I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel for me. And I think it's mainly like the sci-fi thing. Sci-fi comics sometimes are, for me, hard to take. And, sometimes a lot of times it's the color. Sometimes the art is just, okay. So we'll see. What about Wednesday? I still haven't finished. I feel bad. I haven't finished Wednesday season 2. I'd like to. I don't know when I will. But season 3, I guess filming has begun. Someone posted something about like, first day shoots or something. I don't know. But they're looking at like possibly 2027. We'll get that. So hopefully I will finish season 2 before then. What about Scooby-Doo? Did you know there are plans for a live-action Scooby-Doo movie? I had no idea. It makes sense. Why wouldn't there be? I mean, Scooby-Doo, I love that franchise. There's just something about it. And it might be just a nostalgia thing, watching the classic ones as a kid and then watching them with my daughter, because my daughter loves Scooby-Doo. I mean, so we watch so many different versions of Scooby-Doo. I still have like so many different DVDs. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And then, can I pause to say, Mystery Incorporated? That was such an amazing series. If you have not watched that, watch it. It's like 25 episodes. It is the best. It's kind of, there's like this ongoing story arc like throughout the episodes. Each episode has its own like mystery, whatever. But there's this hidden like ongoing thing that branches over the whole thing, and it was so good. And Matthew Lillard, Shaggy. I love Matthew Lillard. I mean, he's such a cool guy, such a nice guy, and poo poo to anyone who says otherwise. Friggin' was it Quentin Tarantino that said that? Big jerk. So yeah, Mystery Incorporated. Last I checked, it was on Netflix, and my daughter, we loved that. I think we ended up like watching it again like the last few years, whatever. So definitely should check that out if you've ever liked any, even tiny bit like Scooby Doo. So animation's great. The stories are just, yeah, and it's a little more mature, but not like over the top mature. So that's good. The Mummy. There's like, okay, there's like conflicting Mummy. So I'm like, aren't they doing another Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser? I still don't know if that's happening or not. But they're talking about The Mummy Returns is coming back to theater for its like 25th anniversary. So that was from Universal. Now, there is also Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which is being put out through Warner Brothers. These are two completely different mummies. Oh my gosh. Lee Cronin's, watch the teaser for it. So Lee Cronin, he did Evil Dead Rise, and he did, what was that movie with the big hole? I don't think it was called Hole. That was like a creepy movie as well. So, I mean, he's brilliant. The Mummy trailer, yeah, that's some creepy stuff there, I will say. And, Blumhouse is involved with it and everything like that. Atomic Monster. So I can't wait for that. Another thing I can't wait for is Over Your Dead Body. So it stars Samara Weaving. Of course, I'm going to give her top billing. Samara Weaving and Jason Segel. That comes out on April 24th. It's just about a couple, and then things get a little dark, and it looks like it's going to be like a dark comedy. That's all I'll say. Watch the trailer. I mean, I don't want to spoil that for you, but I think she's amazing, and I'll take any opportunity I get to praise her. I feel, I hate when people say, "Oh, so and so is underrated." Maybe she is, maybe she's not. In my opinion, I feel like she is. I don't know if she gets the recognition and the credit that she deserves. I think she's an amazing actress. And, the stuff that she's done, I mean, Ready or Not, that was such a great movie. I want a 4K steelbook for that movie because I don't know if it was released on 4K. And I would love to own a steelbook for that because that's such a great movie. I'm so excited for the sequel. I've seen that trailer so many times, like when I go to the movies, and a lot of times that happens where they'll play the same trailer like week after week, and it's just like, ugh. So I'm like on my phone, the lights are dim. I'm still on my phone. It's like I cannot watch this trailer again. But with this, it's like I was like watching it, and I'm even, I watched it. When I went to see Psycho Killer, and she's like, "I'm not playing." Just the way she says that, and then with the heartbeat and the beep, it's like going whatever. I can't wait for that movie. So, anyways, Samara Weaving and Jason Segel, you should check out that trailer. Casting apparently has begun for Ryan Coogler's X-Files reboot. This is something else that I know nothing about. I've known, it's been in talks for a while. If it's a reboot, are they starting from scratch? Are we going to have David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson? I don't remember if there's ever any mention of them having cameos or being in it. I mean, what is it going to be like X-Files, The Next Generation? I mean, what are they going to do? Or is it just going to be like, let's just start over, and here's, these young agents taking on these weird cases that no one believes in. Either way, with Ryan Coogler, I have confidence it'll be cool. I just, like many, I mean, that was just such a great series, and I hope it's like perfect. So that's all I'll say. What about Chris Hemsworth? He had mentioned on, I think it was on a podcast or something like that, where he's saying that he's contracted to play Thor a couple more times in the MCU. My question is, a couple more times, does that include Doomsday? Or is that beyond Doomsday? Is that beyond Secret Wars? I don't remember if he's in Secret Wars or not. But he loves the character, and I'm so happy that he enjoys it so much, because when I no offense, but I look at Scarlett Johansson or Chris Evans, where you're like, yeah, I'm done, I'm fine, and I get it. You want to do other things. I always thought it was like Chris Evans was going to give up acting because he wanted to do directing, and then he does Knives Out. It's like, what? And then he does that. Defending Jacob or whatever, that show, which you should watch that on Apple TV. But whatever. So Chris Hemsworth, he'll keep playing Thor, and that we need that, because this is a problem where I've said it before. I don't feel like you should be killing off characters. Kill off sort of whatever, not really. Captain America, Black Widow, just recast. If an actor is unable to or just doesn't want to do it anymore, you got to recast. If it's weird to think that these characters are aging, because then how long can you continue this? Because then we should have kind of like this sort of sliding time scale. Yeah, we have years, and we know how it's 5 years or whatever for the blip and all that, but I feel like we need to stretch this out as much as we can, because when we're not getting movies every year or as much as we used to, it's like you're limiting the existence of these characters, and there's so many stories that could be told. So yeah, we'll see. But more Thor is coming. And then the last bit of news, there's a reported some gossip account. And I forget what it was. I think there's an X in it. I don't even remember. But they're saying that Adria Arjona is James Gunn's top choice to play Wonder Woman. I mean, she's great. She could. I would be like, yes, let's make that happen. But I don't think she's from what James Gunn has said. He wants someone tall enough that can act, and I think he's looking for someone over 6 foot. Now, how tall is Adria Arjona? I actually have no idea. Right before I started recording, I looked her up. One thing, I think the Google Gemini whatever AI recap thing when you Google stuff says she's 5'7". But then, the first thing, IMDb said she was 5'5", and then I scroll down a little more. Wikipedia says she's 5'9". So what is she? 5'7", 5'5", 5'9"? I mean, that's for going from 5'5". You're talking 4 inch discrepancy. What is it, man? I mean, the internet's supposed to have all the answers. Apparently, it doesn't. So yeah, I don't think this is. I don't even know if James Gunn would be even. He's said so many times that they are not casting. They're not going to cast until they have a script, and I don't even know if they're even working or thinking about a script yet. So who knows? But what I do know is there's going to be more podcasts, but that is the news for the week. With comic books, I don't think there's anything. I'm trying to think if there's anything like Dynamite or anything. I don't think there was. At Image Comics, I'm going to start off with White Sky #1. So this is by William Harms and J.P. Mavinga, I believe, according to the Comixology thing, Amazon, whatever you want to call it. And in the past, I used to always say, it's like, oh yeah, when Image puts out a #1, I try to read it just to see what it's about. So I didn't know anything about this comic, but I was like, I'll check it out. And there's other reasons too, but I dig it. It's like a post-apocalyptic future. There's something going on. We got this father and daughter. They're trying to survive. And right away when you look at the cover, when you think about that, it's like, oh, was this Last of Us? Not necessarily. I mean, it's not that. The writer, there is a mention like, oh, there was a tiny bit of inspiration from that. There's like other things, but that's how it goes. And I totally appreciate them, stating that. And because, where did these ideas come from? Everything is like an offshoot of something else. So that there's times where you'll see something and you're like, oh, wait, what if this happened and this happened, whatever. And then, even though you may get your root from one idea, one thing, it goes in a totally different direction. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's not like you're saying, oh, what if instead of bitten by a spider, it was a gerbil or something, and then you do, whatever. It's there's definitely some weird stuff happening here, and I don't want to like spoil anything, but I definitely think you should check this out. I think I could be wrong. I think I might have gotten an email from Image that the first issue like sold out. That it's like a success. So you should definitely try to track down. Call your comic store if you're buying physical comics. Go to your comic store and say, hey, do you happen to have any copies of White Sky #1? Because if they do, you might want to run there and grab that copy. Or if there's going to be a reprint, get that. Or if you read them digitally and check it out because it's pretty cool. Oh, we also had G.I. Joe #19. So this is Joshua Williamson, Tom Riley, and man, Duke is angry. Now that he knows that there's like a transformer in their midst, sort of, he's so angry because he lost friends, and that's the problem. It was Starscream that was involved with that, and he's so quick to say it's like, oh, these things are evil, whatever, these robots and stuff like that. But that's like saying, okay, you take one horrible human being, and then you're going to say the entire human race is evil and can't be trusted, and maybe but it's kind of silly that he's saying that, because Clutch is like, oh, he would never do that. He would, or I don't know if it's Clutch or the Transformer, what they're saying, about the Autobots and Decepticons, and he's like, well, why should I believe that? It's just, he was just like so out of line. It's just kind of ridiculous. But there's I think the bigger thing, which I haven't mentioned because I haven't wanted to spoil it, but I don't think I've mentioned it. But the stuff going on with like General Hawk, man, that's really crazy. And one thing I do appreciate here, they're like we need more people here because G.I. Joe's so small. At the same time, it got to be where there's way too many. And that was something that always bothered me when there's like so many characters, because then if you had a favorite character, it's like they hardly got any screen time or whatever because there's so many others. So hopefully they'll add some more. Exquisite Corpses #10. I need to get caught up with that. I've fallen behind. There's the same thing with I Hate Fairyland. #48 came out. So we had those. At Marvel had a lot of comics this week, in no particular order, because I used to go in alphabetical order, but my list here is not. We had Ultimate Spider-Man #24. Can we take a moment and just appreciate how perfect this comic series has been? There's a couple of ththings that I wasn't super duper crazy about, but man, Jonathan Hickman, David Messina and Marco Cicchetto, it's just such a great comic, and it sucks that it's over. We still don't know what's going to happen in the Ultimate Universe. I'm I can't get into it, like all this other Ultimate in Endgame infusion or whatever's happening. But this was just such a great comic, and this last issue, I mean, it was just they nailed it, and the fact that this shows like how great Spider-Man can be, and the regular Amazing Spider-Man hasn't been super great. I mean, even like recently, we have an issue this week. Just like all the space stuff. I don't know. But, and then let's not even get started what we had before, all the stuff with Paul, and it's like, oh, we're gonna bring Peter and Mary Jane back together, and then it's like 5 years later or something, or something, not 5 years, but some weird thing. It's like they're not even, and it's like, wait, Mary Jane's with who's Paul? Have I mentioned I like Paul? So yeah, amazing. Ultimate Spider-Man 24 is so great. And as soon as I read this, I was like, I want like an omnibus. I want a collection of all 24 issues. I know that there's I think there's 4 different trades that collects them. So now I'm tempted, like, do I just get the trades? Because I don't think I own any physical copies of this. I read it all digitally, but I would love to have like one ultimate collection of the entire series, but I don't know how expensive that would end up being. But this has just been, it's been so good. Let's just say that. And I'm not even going to say anything how it ends, who lives, who dies, but it was just good. Then we have X-Men 25. This was okay. I'm still bummed that I'm not loving the X-Men comics. I don't even remember what the last arc was. The Revelation, or whatever. I couldn't stand that. I just want to have some like excellent, awesome X-Men comics, because they used to. I mean, X-Men, man, they ruled for a while. I mean, it was so good. But yeah, it just hasn't been there. So this is fine. It's like it's getting back on track. With Cyclops, returning from the future, and trying to get sorted out. He's a little too focused on we need to stop Doug Ramsey and everything like that. But yeah, this was fine. But then we got like Fenris in here, and I've never been the Struckers. I've never been a huge fan of them, but we got that. Then there's Uncanny X-Men number 24. It is uncanny, right? I read this. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it's possible. It's like, did I skip 23? I know, like, sometimes I don't, because I'm not a huge fan of the kids, these new characters. But here we got, like, I mean, you look at the covers, like, why is Morbius like about to bite Jubilee's neck? And then you got Elsa Bloodstone. And Elsa Bloodstone, what happened to her eyes? Her eyes are like white. And then there's like, I don't remember. It's and then there's talk of a movie. It's like something happening. Are they all like being brainwashed? And I was like, is this real? And then Wolverine gets bit by a werewolf. And I don't know if it's Werewolf by Night, because after a while I'm just like skimming. I'm like, what? I don't even know what's going on here. And like he turns into a wolf. How the heck does Wolverine turn into a werewolf when he has a friggin' healing factor? When he got bit by vampires during the stupid vampire Dark Knight or whatever that crossover was, I believe it was that he can't turn into a vampire because he has a healing factor, but he can turn into a werewolf. Or, I mean, he's going to be a werewolf for 5 minutes, just so he can attack or threaten the other X-Men, and then he's going to get better? I don't know. Speaking of, there's a couple of Wolverine comics. There is, what's this? Weapons of something, Armageddon. I didn't read that. This is by Chip Zdarsky, Lionel Francis Yu. Maybe I should check that out. I was just like, I just can't get into X-Men comics, because then there was also, or X-Men, Wolverine comics. There's also Wolverine 16 by Saladin Ahmad. But it's like, okay, we got Alpha Flight on the cover. Is that really Alpha Flight, or is this like some Logan dream? And at first I was like, oh, is it a dream of all the women that he's had crushes on or whatever? Because you got Heather Hudson posing there on the cover. You got Snowbird. But then there's like Puck. So I was like, okay, so maybe it's not like a Wolverine dream fantasy. I don't even know what's going on there. But then we had Amazing Spider-Man 22. And here's the thing. It's like Spider-Man is still not on Earth. How is he not on Earth when he's been on Earth in like so many other comics? Like he was back in Miles Morales, so I'm like, wait, how is he there? He hasn't even come back yet. And there was like something else, but here he finally comes to Earth. So it's like, I guess whatever, things came out of order or whatever. Basically, he returns. He comes to Earth with his space girlfriend. It's like, wait, where are they going to move in together? And how's Peter Parker going to explain that he has an alien girlfriend and then Spider-Man has an alien girl? It's like, wait, have you thought this through? Because it's not like she's just going to visit, because the rest of the others are leaving. They're not going to stick around. So I'm like, what's happening there? And she's drawn a little differently. The art here is by Nick Bradshaw and Todd Knock. I love both of their art. I mean, their art is so amazing. I mean, they're like the reasons, the main reasons I miss doing awesome. Is it awesome art picks or amazing art picks? I forget if I ever went back to awesome art picks. Maybe it's still amazing, but their art is just so. It is. I mean, they're the reasons that you'd collect art, because I mean, their art is just so. It's just. It's just so, man, it's so good. So they do the art, but then I don't remember what Spider-Man's girlfriend's name is, because I didn't care for the character, whatever. But she looks a little different. I'm like, wait, what's happening here? And then Spider-Man's like, where's Aunt May? And she's not at her place, so he's freaking out. And then he finds out, like, oh, Ben Reilly was kind of taking his place. He sees a note from him, so he goes off and he attacks Ben Reilly. He goes, Ben Reilly's been like a jerk lately or whatever. He just like smashes through his window. He's like living in a loft or something like that. It's like, okay, Spider-Man, you're being such a jerk. It's like, knock on a door, crawl through the window, whatever. So yeah, there's stuff going on there. We had a Fantastic Four #8. Oh my gosh, this book is dark. Yeah, so this is like focusing on what I like about it is there's a big focus on Invisible Woman, on Sue, about how like powerful she is and everything. Then things just get dark, and it's just like, what does this mean? And you might look at that cover like, wait, what's happening there? I feel like that cover is kind of like a callback to like John Byrne's run, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, things get really dark there, and this is part of like that Galactus storyline. So it's weird. I dig the story. I don't know what this means, repercussions, and it's kind of scary in a way. Just like what they do with Invisible Woman. So we'll see about that. We also had Captain America #7, just Chip Zdarsky and Valerio Schiti. This is more. It's kind of weird because I read this after Dungeons of Doom. After me, I should mention that first. It's basically Nick Fury is sort of, and I'm a little confused because Nick Fury's like starting up S.H.I.E.L.D. again, but we also saw that mentioned in Fantastic Four, and there's no mention of that. So it's like those things both happen. The problem is with Doctor Doom being gone. What does that mean for Latveria? Because there's like all these factions that want to get to Castle Doom, and that's, okay, whatever, new government, someone's going to try to take over the country, someone's got to do something. The problem is there's weapons of mass destruction. Who knows what Doctor Doom, are we just talking about nuclear weapons? I mean, Doctor Doom could have, what about like Doctor Doom's time platform? That's, I don't know if there's been any mention of that, but that is like the bigger thing. Does he still have it? And the other question is, how does the time travel work with this? Because if it's a matter of traveling into and creating alternate realities, it's not going to be a danger to this main world, but someone could still go back. Couldn't someone go back in time and steal an almanac, even though if it's from an alternate Earth, because it's should probably be similar. Yeah, so I mean, it could be abused, and then what does that mean? How does that affect the other world? You not just throw away worlds. I don't know, but so Cap is going there with the team, but then you have Thunderbolt Ross, Red Hulk. He's got his own agenda. He wants to go. He wants to make sure he's laying claim to it. While he was there, he was imprisoned by Doom. So yeah, he's got every right to be mad. But he planted an American flag in Latveria, and they're like, you can't do that because he can't make an official statement saying that the U.S. government is claiming Latveria, but doesn't want Shield to go in there because he doesn't trust Shield because he's like they always mess things up or whatever. So he's like wants to put a stop to them. So there's a little conflict there, and then there's an interesting development with one of the factions that is quote unquote fighting for control. So I'm not sure what that means, and it seems like a little hokey, little BS to me. We'll see. Then Dungeons of Doom #2. This was kind of like all over the place. It seemed like because there's so much going on. We have all these different groups, and I don't know how big the castle is, and Doctor Doom has all this dangerous and bizarre and dark stuff locked away in different rooms. I mentioned it with the first issue when that came out that there was like some mutant that was locked up. Why is this person locked up? Is it Doctor Doom wanting them for a weapon, or is it for like the safety of humanity? Are they like such a huge threat that he sees that if they're free, that's going to cause problems, even though you can't just lock someone up, but he did. Yeah, so there's like, it's a big mess. And but that feels like, I don't know how that lines up with Captain America. Because Captain America, it seems like the castle is already cleared out. Because when he gets there's some people who are like, yeah, go ahead, check things out. We want to be transparent or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Then there's Generation X. Oh, yes, I didn't realize this. I thought it was just like, they're relaunching Generation X again. Okay, cool. Let's that name means something. Let's do something. But this is actually Generation X23. That's kind of clever because it's mainly Laura and Gabby, and I mean, two great characters. I mean, Gabby is Scout, whatever. She's a kick, and yeah. So they're teaming up, and then there's stuff going on. There's mutants. I don't know how I feel about the ending. Because we meet some other characters, and I don't care to meet other characters. So we'll see if it's just going to be a temporary thing or if they're going to try to be like, let's form a team, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see how that is. And that's written by Jody Hauser, and I think Partha Pratton does the art. I think I mentioned, Wolverine 16. I did not read that. I do not plan on reading that. There was New Avengers #9. I don't know how I feel about this book. I don't know if issue 10 is the final issue, if it's ending. This is Sam Humphries. I love Sam Humphries. He's a great writer. He's a great guy. Steven Segovia is doing the art. My problem is, I've made this complaint for a lot of books. When you have a book with a questionable like villain or threat, something that and this could be like a personal thing, but like for me, if it's something I'm not super crazy about, and then it drags on and on and on. So here we're 9 issues. We got the same villain. We got this Illuminati. And while the idea is like, these are evil clones, which evil clones, like we haven't seen that enough. But we got these evil clones of Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange, Namor. Who else am I missing? Did I say Black Panther? There's other people. There's someone else. So that is a huge threat. They came across as a little comical in a way, and it's just like evil Tony Stark, evil Iron Man. He's posing as Iron Man, even though he's a little disfigured. and it's ridiculous. The thing I'm concerned with is who's in charge, because the question was, is it Black Widow? Is it a clone of Black Widow? Is she being controlled somehow? So it's like, what does all that mean? And how will the others feel if they find out? And that comes up here. So we'll see. But I don't know. I feel like you got some really cool characters. It's just some things. I just think they're just doing the same stuff. They're fighting these villains. Even using like the Jackal, he's like a joke. So I don't know. There's Doctor Strange #3. I didn't read this. It's just too much Asgard stuff, and I don't know. I can't get into it. Null #2 of 5. Thank goodness it's only 5 issues. I started reading this, and I couldn't read through this. I was never a Null fan, and I don't think I really read that stuff because I kind of gave up on Venom when Null came about. And I know a lot of people like Null and like what Donny Cates was doing with Venom and all that. I just got really tired of Venom, and the only reason I'm reading Venom now is because the Mary Jane connection, and even that is, that's questionable. But all the King in Black stuff, it just seems weird. Maybe it's because like the symbiote and the whole Secret Wars connection and just all that stuff. It's like a nostalgic thing. When that first came out, that was like so cool and everything. But then to have like Null in charge or like commanding everything, I don't know. It's just I don't see the threat of him. Like how is he such an evil, formidable villain when he has just been locked up? So I don't know. And then we got Thanos here, and I think Hela. Yeah, I don't know. Then we had Deadly Hands of Kunlun. I wanted. I don't know if I can get into this. I want Danny Rand as Iron Man, as Iron Fist, not as Iron Man. I want Danny Rand as Iron Fist, but he's still dead. But he is somehow like a ghost. So he does make an appearance here, but I don't understand how. I still haven't looked up. I don't remember, how did he die? How did he get killed? I don't remember that happening. And how did I miss that? Where did that happen? And so we got this new Iron Fist, and I forget what's his name, Lin Leia. I don't remember what it is. But he's got like this sword like embedded, like shards of swords in him. And I remember when his first appearance, it's like the sword shattered, and it gives him power, but it's painful. I don't know. I'm assuming he's a cool character, but then there's like all these other characters who I don't know who they are, and they might have been in that other book, that other team, so I don't know much about them, but and then I don't know who this little kid looks like, a little kid in the front center. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see. Daredevil and Punisher. This is what issue is this? I think it's issue 4 or something like that. I've been enjoying this. This is Jimmy Palmiotti, Mario Santoro, and it's interesting. It's sort of like out of continuity, so it's kind of cool that it's not bogged down with anything that's currently going on, and just the idea of Daredevil and Punisher, at odds, trying to do their own thing, and Punisher is he's such a jerk. He doesn't care about anything, and like Daredevil points, he finally gets them to have a meeting so they can talk. And, he mentions like, yeah, this one mob guy that you're about to kill, he was actually an undercover FBI agent. And, Frank just considers, innocent or civilians as like, casualties or whatever, or what, collateral damage or something like that. I forget what it was. And so he's not that concerned that like, he might have killed someone who wasn't dirty. But yeah, so there's kind of a problem. But then they have like, there's other people that are gunning for Punisher, and Daredevil's there, and just this whole stuff going on. So it's a lot of fun. It's I normally I wouldn't think that I would be enjoying this much, like this many issues, but yeah, I'm curious about this. Star Wars number 10. This might be the last issue. Is that right? As I was reading this, I'm a fan of Alex Segura, and he's done a lot of cool stuff. We got Phil Noto doing it. It's like great team. But as I was reading this, I was like, I haven't really been enjoying this volume, and what I think it is, I mean, you would think this would be like an exciting time period because we haven't seen a whole lot like specific about this time. It's just been, okay, we got Return of the Jedi, and then it jumps like 30 years later. So there's a lot that's we still have to see, like, how does this flesh out. The old books did like some great stuff. There's so many cool stories in between there. All that's gone. What we have here, we got the political aspect. I get that, and that's important. That these other planets, they're not necessarily going to like jump up and say, "Hey, New Republic, yeah, we'll join you," because they're still dealing with the fact that the Empire was doing all what they were doing. So it's just like going from one to another. Why would they just quote unquote get in bed with someone else when it could just be just as bad? They might make promises or whatever, but that's what they thought about Palpatine, and then he went bonkers or whatever. I feel like the focus has been too much on this one planet or whatever, and I don't even know who they are, and it's like I kind of just don't care, and that was a problem. So it's great that we had like Luke and Han and Van, what's his Van? I don't even remember the guy's name, the cyborg guy, but I don't know if we're gonna. I mean, there's got to be more. I mean, they're not just gonna like stop this. I don't know what the answers should be, but they need to broaden it a little bit. So we'll see. But I couldn't even imagine working on a Star Wars book because I feel like you have so many hoops to jump through and so many, people need to approve of like the slightest. I mean, I would imagine that, it's like, oh, Han wouldn't say that. He wouldn't use that phrase. I mean, I don't know if it's that controlling. I'm making an assumption. I know nothing. But yeah, I feel like it would be tough because there's just a lot of eyes that, on everything, and just a lot of approval needed. We got 1776, issue 4. This is second to last issue. And this has been kind of interesting. I'm still not sure how this is going to go because, like Tony Stark revealed himself to Ben Franklin. So Ben Franklin sees his suit of armor. And there's one point Ben's like, I won't tell anyone about you or something like that. I'll keep it a secret. All this stuff that everyone's seeing, are they going to somehow forget all this, or are they just going to not? Because who would believe them, So I don't know. But, yeah, last issue, Spider-Man jumped in front of a guy and got shot. So that's kind of a problem. So we'll see where that's going to go. It's Jeff meets Daredevil. I don't remember if I finished. I must have finished reading this. This is, it's Kelly Thompson and Guri Hiro. And I love them as creators. It's a great creative team. I love Jeff, but a lot of time these Jeff books, when there's like, I'm biased with Guri Hiro. The same thing with like Guri Hiro doing Gwenpool. We do get to see Gwenpool in here, which is always a treat. But like when someone else draws it, it's like, yeah, that's good, but it's not quite. It's like we're spoiled by the Guri Hiro art, and other people. No offense, but other people other than Kelly Thompson writing Jeff, it's not as funny or entertaining. It feels off. But yeah, there's some fun stuff that happens here. That is it for Marvel. At DC, there wasn't a whole lot. We had Absolute Batman number 17. And this is the big Poison Ivy origin. It was fine. It was okay. Yeah, I can appreciate the differences with the Batman's rogues, if you even want to call it, they're not even really his rogues gallery. It's like all his rogues gallery are his friends, except for not necessarily Poison Ivy. And it's just, I do feel that if you are going to do something like this, do an ultimate line, absolute line, whatever you want to call it, that it shouldn't just be the same thing. And they've been, with all the books, it feels like they've been doing a good job separating it. I don't know. That's my concern with Green Arrow that I mentioned. We got a Green Arrow book. Is it just going to be straight up Green Arrow, or is he actually killing, the billionaires, whatever? But I feel like if you're going to relaunch this, if you're not going to make significant changes, then what's the point? That it's just another book with that character, just with a different coat of paint on there. So I think it's important that you do it, but don't just do changes just to do changes. There should be a reason, a plan, and a goal in mind or whatever. So with Poison Ivy, we see her origin, and she's definitely different. Her final form, or whatever you want to call it, is different. I don't know where it's going to go, and then there's like other stuff happening. It's like, what about Killer Croc, and how's everyone else doing, and what's going on with Martha and that. So and then there's still stuff with, like, we have Dick Grayson, and is he? It's weird that he's introduced so early, because it doesn't feel like there's like a that much of an age difference between Dick and Bruce. So is he going to become a Robin? Maybe not. Could be an interesting turn of events. Like, maybe they're going to mix it up, and instead of him becoming Robin, he's going to be something else, because he's not too happy with the idea of Batman. So yeah, we'll have to see where that's going to go. Wonder Woman number 30. I didn't care. I feel like I missed something. I'm pretty sure I read the last issue, but like, everyone is kind of protecting baby Lizzie from, I don't even know who this woman is. It was okay. But the main thing is, what's her name? Yara, the other Wonder Girl. She's such an attitude. She's so rude to everyone, and it's weird because she's like the newest addition to the Amazonian family or whatever. And when she first appeared, it didn't seem like she had this much attitude. But like, at one point, she like refers Wonder Woman as like, "Oh yeah, you're looking like an old hag," or something like that. It's like really, like, no sense of respect. So that was just kind of silly. Batman Superman World's Finest. I don't know what number this is. I wasn't going to read it because I haven't been reading it lately. But then I was like, oh wait, this is a new story arc. Okay, I'll check it out because I like Mark Waid. So I got Mark Waid. Marcus Toad did the art. I did like that. But this is like one of the last comics I read, and it was interesting because it starts off. It's like, okay, here we go. We're watching the origin Batman again. They're walking out of the theater. Martha's like, "Oh, this looks dangerous," and Thomas is like, "It's a shortcut." And then things take a twist, or not take a twist. Things take a turn, because the Joe Chill, whoever comes up, but then Thomas, he's like, "Oh, I'm just reaching for my wallet." Pulls out a gun, and it's like, wait, okay, this isn't regular. But then he goes to shoot, click, click, click. Someone took the bullets out, and then we find out, oh, this isn't regular universe. This is Earth 3. But then it's like, oh, this is Earth 3 again. Here we go. So we see a lot of that, and I feel like we've seen them so many times, but we're seeing like, again, we're seeing Ultraman and all this. It is kind of interesting. It is definitely new reader friendly. But a lot of the beats that we're seeing, we know it already, but it's taking place a little differently. So it's fresh enough to stand out from what we've seen many times. So that's cool. And then like the ending, it's like, how is this world's finest? Like, where is this? What's the point? Where is this going? And then you're like, okay, that's going to be interesting. So I'll definitely check out the next issue. Titans 32, haven't read this. I haven't been reading it, but the cover, I'm curious. It is a DC KO tie-in, and it's together for the last time or something like that. It says on the cover. So I don't know what that means. We got Nightwing 135, and I just haven't been enjoying this so much. But we got Nightwing, we got Nightwing Prime, which is weird that Nightwing Prime is using the name Prime when he's not like the main Nightwing. But yeah, there's it's a conclusion to like this circus story, whatever. Superman Unlimited number 10. I didn't read this because I think this is a continuation from the last issue with the prankster. So I didn't read that. I should check it out, but I didn't. End of Life. So this is by Kyle Starks and Steve Pugh. It's a Vertigo book. So Vertigo is back. I've been seeing like ads for this in other comics. I forgot that they're like he's a man-child but an assassin or something like that. It's like, okay, I'll read it. So this main dude, he's a hitman, but he has like he's a horrible personality. He sucks, and you know that's kind of the point. So he's supposed to be this really great hitman. He's on this job with some others. One of the things that bothers me is, you know, he's wearing kind of like this fancy suit. He just has his 2 pistols. And we see, they comment how he's like, oh, he's like really over the top with like he's killing all the security in this place that they're going. And I'm like, he just has 2 pistols. It's not like he's carrying like a backpack or a belt or a satchel. It's like, where's he getting all this ammunition from? Because it does not look like he is carrying anything. And it's not like, you know, video games where he's picking it up off the floor because, you know, they probably have like assault rifle. I don't know. That just little thing bothered me. But all I'll say is, you know, he's part of this like organization, which is a little weird, but whatever. And there's like a theme to the organization that he is part of. And it turns out the place that they're robbing is someone high up in the organization, and he's cooked, as they would say. So there ends up being this big bounty on him for his part in what he's done. He didn't realize what he was doing, but he's kind of an idiot and probably should have looked into it more. But yeah, so he's kind of on the run, and it was kind of interesting, and you know, like where he goes and what could possibly happen next. So I probably it's probably holding my interest enough that I would check out the second issue. And that's it. Then we have Catwoman 84. I did see some people talking about that they kind of talk about her origin a little more. Because, you know, Catwoman has, what is her origin? You know, we see like in year 1, she's living on this, or she's a prostitute, whatever. And then there's the stuff like with Long Halloween or whatever. It's like, is she part of the Falcone family or not, or whatever. So I think there's a little clarification here with some of that. But I don't think I've read Catwoman since like issue 29 or something like that. So I'm so happy that, you know, it has reached issue 84, and I hope it keeps going. I hope at least they let it get to 100 before they decide to reboot it, or just let it keep going. Because you know, that's a milestone. I think, you know, it deserves the numbers that it's reaching. And don't just relaunch it, whatever. But that is it. That's all I read. So that is going to be comics for the week. Okay, Hijack, Season 2, Episode 5, Outage. Things are definitely heating up. I guess, you know, as we're past a halfway point, right? Is there 8 episodes of this? Yeah, I'm enjoying the show. There's a couple things that are bothering me, like some of the, well, I mean, I'll mention when we get to it, but there's some of the other passengers on the train as they start becoming a little more vocal. While I would understand, you know, given the circumstances and all that, but also given the circumstances, is like, I don't think you could be so vocal and so annoying. I don't know. It's kind of weird, and yeah, there's a lot going on here. It's yeah, I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's like, was this episode written by someone else? Did someone else taking a lead on this? Because it's, and I don't know who's. I think there's more to this whole hijacking thing than it seems. We already saw that in the second episode, third, or whatever. But I think that there's still more. Like, there's probably gonna be like another twist. All right, well, we'll get to it. Okay, so at least this part gets explained, because you see the bomb thing. It says 3 minutes 12 seconds. It said 4:53 last episode, and it's like I think, and that was like towards the beginning, at least in the first half of the episode. It's like I feel like there's more than just like a minute and a half that would have passed between them, but it's always hard to say. As whenever you have shows that cut from like scene to scene, it's like, okay, when you cut from the train to the countryside, are these happening at the same time? Or, because in some circumstances, like, okay, things continue. So things are still happening on a train. We're not picking up directly. Like, next time we go on a train, I'm totally babbling. When we next pick up on a train, it's not like you're necessarily going to pick up in the mid conversation from where we were before. Sometimes that happens, but it felt like, and I haven't really tried gauging it so much this season, but it felt like first season, it was more like in real time, where it was a 6-hour flight and it was like 6 episodes, or whatever it was. So I don't know about that. So okay, so we got 3 minutes 12 seconds. Teacher one, I'm just gonna call teacher one teacher two. Teacher one, he asks the other teacher, he's like, what if we just talk to him? He let the baby off the train. Teacher two is a guy with like the dirty blondish, whatever, dark, maybe it's not blonde. He was the one wearing like the hat that went up and talked to him. And he's like, what, you just want to go talk to him? And teacher one's like, well, we have to try something. And teacher two says, like, why provoke him? And teacher one says, well, there are children on a train. They shouldn't be here. And then long-haired dude, I haven't compared. I don't know if this is the same guy that had the drugs. It might be. Is there more than one long-haired guy on the train? But so I'm calling him long hair. He's like, so teacher one says the children shouldn't be on here. And he's like, and we should? Teacher two is like, that's not what he's saying. And another person's like, oh, they think that they're better than we are. Teacher one says, he's just saying that they're kids. Meanwhile, that older lady, so that the older couple, she's like totally watching Dr. Lady carefully. And we know, we're pretty sure Dr. Lady is involved with this, right? She's the one that killed Cappy or Freddy. So she keeps like watching her carefully. Long hair, he's like, well, I think we're past asking. So Dr. Lady gets up. She goes into the empty car with her bag, and Sam sees her like reaching into her bag, but he's like peeking through the crack of the door. He can't see what she's doing. Clara calls, and she's like, the convoy is about a half hour from the one station, and then the brakes. And I was a little confused with what happened here, because the brakes slam on and then off, and the Dr. Lady like drops. It almost looks like a little walkie-talkie or something like that, and he tells Otto to keep going. So I was like, wait. I was like, why did the brakes slam on? And I was like, did Otto slam the brakes on? But then I was like, no, wait. It looked like Sam grabbed his shoulder, but then he grabbed his shoulder before. So I think he grabbed his shoulder, pulled his arm back to slam on the brakes, and then pushed it back or something like that. Because he tells him to keep going. And he definitely grabbed them before the brakes went on. So then he looks out the door. He's like, I've seen one of those under the train attached to the bombs. And Clara's like, Sam, is everything okay? And to Otto, he's like, if that is the detonator, we need to get to it. And Otto's like, no. Why would we have to make things worse? And then Dr. Lady goes back to the second car. So it's like, what was up with that? Then there's, someone's like, it's like, we haven't seen a gun or knife or anything. And this lady says that, he must have a gun. He couldn't even do this without one. Then long hair is like, have you seen it? And she's like, have you? No, because he's not armed and he's on his own. And there are plenty of us back here. If we all went together as one, then we'd have if we had a weapon, we'd have a chance. And this other lady, she's like, he said there were bombs, okay? What if he pulls the trigger? And long hair's like, if there are bombs, then we need to get to him before that happens. So Sam says to Otto, is like, you can turn the lights off from here, right? Clara's like, Sam, are you there? And Otto's like, yes. And Sam's like the whole train? And Otto's like, yeah. Sam, come in. So he takes her, finally gets on the radio. I will speak to you when I'm ready. And she's like, okay, we just want to confirm that everything's on track for the handover. And he's like, did you have any reason to believe that it wouldn't be? And she's like, no. He's like, no? Okay, good. So we have an agreement. Don't bother us until we get to the station, okay? The teacher says that he's going to go up there. The other thing, says he's like, they're like, think about it. And then Dr. Lady stands up and she's like, how about we just wait a bit longer? And then this other guy, I'm going to call him Fuzzy Hat because he has like one of those, because Cappy had a cap. This is like one of those big, kind of like Elmer Fudd hats, but like fuzzy on the inside. I don't know what you call those. So he pulls off a metal bar and he's like, we have waited long enough. So then Sam says like, okay, 1 minute. And Otto's like, what? He's like, 1 minute from now. And he sets his phone down with the timer. He's like, flip the switch. He starts heading out. He's like, Otto, 1 minute. So Dr. Lady's like, think about it. He let that baby off the train. If we all just stay back here, I'm pretty sure he'll let the rest of us off too. So Sam enters a train car and they all look, he sees them all standing around. The teacher was like, excuse me, why did the kids have to be here? Can you let them go, please? He's like, you'll be getting off soon, okay? And then Longhair walks right up to him. Why are you doing this, man? He's like, you don't need to know. Now, take a seat. And then Longhair's like, why don't you tell me what's going on, and then I'll take a seat. Sam looks back towards Otto in the front. Like I said, this will be over soon. Then the power goes out. He grabs a device from Dr. Lady's bag, and because she's standing right next to Longhair, and there's like some panic and everything like that. She reaches for her bag right away, and Sam runs towards the front. Longhair follows, hits him with the pole from behind. Sam goes down. It's over. It's over. It's like, you stupid long-haired dude. Zara and Daniel, they go to the police station. And he goes into this interrogation room. She says that she'll be on the other side of glass. She's like, if he sees me, he'll lose his poop. Daniel sits and waits. And an inmate's brought in. And we see him from behind. Then they make this like dramatic point of turning him around to undo his cuffs. But it's like, who could it possibly be? So, and then it's like, it's the dude in charge of the plane during the hijacking. And it's like he's allowed to sit with no cuffs. And he has like a major attitude. Like he thinks he's too cool for school. And he's like, who the fudge you? So I think his name is Stuart, right? On a train, Sam starts to regain consciousness. And then they tie his hands to a pole. Longhair tells the lady to search him. He's like, you won't find anything, okay? I'm not armed. I don't have a gun. And Longhair's like, I knew it. Dr. Lady stands and watches. And Longhair's like, what's he got? And this other lady's like, just a portable radio and keys. And then she looks at the keys. She goes to the conductor door. He's like, don't listen to them, Otto. So she tries using keys on the door. Stupid Longhair slams a pole against a pole that Sam is tied to right by his head. He's like, shut up. It's like, oh, you're so cool with your long hair and your neck tattoos. And you got a pole. So the lady gets the door open. Then she and Fuzzy Hat enter. She's like, stop the train. And Otto's like, no. It's like, we have to keep going. And she's like, no, it's okay. He's unarmed. The hijack's over. It's like, we're all getting off. So, you better stop the fudging train, please. And then Dr. Lady's like listening. Otto debates and then puts on the brakes. Sam looks at Dr. Lady and she kind of gives him a look. So, obviously she knows that he knows now since he grabbed the device. The train stops in the middle of the tunnel. The lady opens the door and she's like, let's get out of here. And Sam's like, you don't want to do that. And she's like, shut up. I've had enough of your BS. Teacher one says that he'll go get the others. And Sam's like, no. If anyone steps off this train, you'll all die. And teacher one's like stops in his tracks. He's like, the explosives will detonate if anybody gets off. And Otto's like, he's right. And his stupid long hair walks up. Where are these fudging bombs? And Sam's like, under the train. If you don't believe me, just look. All right? Otto, show them. So Fuzzy Hat gets a little rough with Otto. It's like, you guys are so cool. And, he's on a power trip too. So Otto opens the floor hatch. Fuzzy Hat looks and he sees the bomb. He takes his hat off. He looks at Sam, and Sam looks at him and is like, "I told you, you idiot." He didn't say that, but that's the look he gives him. Then we see like the detective dude talking to Winter over the phone, and he's like, 100 kilos of sodium chloride and sugar primed with Semtex. Forensic analyzed everything from the bomb maker's apartment, as well as the residue I found. You should have a full report now. And she's like, oh my God. She looks at the report, and it looks like there's like a map, maybe how large the explosion will reach. I don't know. Is it a chemical explosion that would reach that far? Is it whatever impact explosion? Clara's sitting waiting for something to do, and she notices the train stopped, like on a big map, because there's lights that show where the trains are. Winter's like, and the trigger for these bombs, can you stop them remotely? Detective's like, no, the system is air-gapped. If you get me under the train, I might have a chance, but otherwise... And then Olivia's like, okay, but how does someone like Sam even meet a bomb maker like this? And the detective looks at the foxhole coaster, whatever he has. He's like, good question, Miss Thatcher. So he goes to the bar. He sits down. And then he's like, allow me. And he sets a coaster down. I don't know if it was a coaster that he found in Sam's room, because wouldn't that be like evidence? Or maybe just grabbed one. The bartender's like, you a cop or something? And he says, BKA? I don't know what that is. He asks the bartender if he owns a place, and the guy, he makes a comment on how limited his German is. He only knows like stop the tapper's empty or something like that. There's this other customer sitting at the bar. He like walks off, sits at a table. So the detective opens up Sam's passport that was in a hotel, and he says in English, she's like, you'd remember him, right? If he'd been here. The bartender stares at the detective. I'm not good with faces. So the detective doesn't respond. Then he turns, he goes to the guy who went and sat at a table. So he's like, so you're a regular, yeah? Ever seen him in here? And the guy looks at it, he's like, yesterday, I think. And the detective, it's like, what time? And the dude says it was like around 7. He said he sat over there with another British guy. It's kind of officer type, a bit full of himself. So who could that be? Another a British guy... full of himself. I didn't think about this. Wait. British guy, full of himself. Who was Sam meet with? Because it's not Faber. Is Faber full of himself? Is it who's full of themselves? Is it Winter's guy? I mean, I feel like there's going to be another twist. We don't find out here. So then John Bailey Brown asks those in the SUVs, it's like, where are you taking me? And no one answers. He's like, you idiots, you're supposed to be protecting me. And here we are, driving around broad daylight. And one guy says in German, he's like, 3 months of this poop. I hope this madman ties you to the tracks. But he doesn't understand that. He's like, seriously? He's like, where the hell are we going, eh? And one guy in German, he's like, tell control, we're 27 minutes out from the station. On the train, stupid long hair tells Sam to deactivate them now. And he's like, I can't. And the other girl's like, he must have a detonator, a trigger, or something. Sam says that he doesn't. He doesn't even know how many there are. So Fuzzy he's going to go down. The older couple lady, she gets up, and the dude's like, where are you going? And she kind of gives him a look, and she heads up to the second carriage. Long hair says that he's had enough of Sam's BS. And Sam's like, you're not hearing me. I'm not in control here. The other lady, that's what I'm calling her, she asked, and she's like 20 or something like that. She seems really young. I mean, I don't know, maybe she's older. But she's like, what are you talking about? And he looks around, he glances at the doctor lady, and she's just like hanging back in silence. No one wonders like, why is she there? Like, why are half the people there? Whatever. But Sam says that he's being forced to do this. So the lady asks him by who, and he says he doesn't know. And he's like, you know what? It doesn't matter who. One thing I do know is that if things do not go the way they want it to go, they will blow this train up. Maybe 1, 2, or 3 of you might get off, but the rest... But if you listen to me, I can get you out of this. And the doctor lady stares at him. So it's like, is she being forced too, or is she evil? Is she part of this? At control, Clara tells Olivia there's still nothing from the train since they stopped. The other cop dude, who's like, is he full himself? He's a guy, Winter's man. Probably not. I don't know. He tells Winter, he can't be in on it. He tells Winter that she needs to speak to Nelson. She says that, she's like, you heard him, no contact until we get to the station. And he's like, well, how do you know he'll even be there? And she says that they have an agreement. And he's like, well, if you can't guarantee he'll be there for the handover, then we have to stop the convoy. So it's like, why is he so eager to stop the convoy? Olivia gets a call, and she goes to answer. She's like, I'm not supposed to be talking to you. Then she's like, why would I do that? And she's listening. So it's got to be who now here. Who else could it be? It's got to be Faber, right? Sam says, "Hear me out. This." I don't know why I'm doing that. This is what we need to do. They need to believe that I'm still the hijacker. And Longhair is like, you are. He's like, I'm not. They made me hijack this train, and they told me that someone would be watching me the whole time. And Longhair's like, who's watching you? And May's like, it was whoever killed Freddy. And then other lady, she's like, he killed Freddy. And May's like, what if there's someone else? Teacher one looks at Otto. He's like, what about him? He's obviously in on this. Otto's like, I didn't hurt anyone. And teacher one's like, well, then who did? Huh? You must know something. It all happened down here, didn't it? And Sam's like, hey, listen, he's just a driver, okay? And teacher's like, I'm not talking to you. He's like, neither of us wanted anyone to die. Then they hear like a click. Fuzzy had his back. He's like, 8 bombs, 2 under each carriage. So other lady's like, you don't want anyone to get hurt? You got a funny way of showing it. Then Winter calls, and other lady's like holding her like a radio. She says she knows that he didn't want to hear from them, but they can see that they have stopped. Is everything all right? She just needs Sam to confirm that everyone is okay so they can proceed with the handover to station. And then other lady asks Sam, what handover? What is she talking about? And Sam's like, silence. Then she demands, she's like, answer me. But again, it's like, who the heck is she to demand answers? Okay, he's like, okay, there is a man, all right? He's a high-profile criminal, and he's being held here in Berlin. The people behind this, the people that forced me to do this, wanted me to hijack this train and exchange all of you for him. The doctor lady, she's like doing something in her pocket, and an older couple ladies like standing there listening, and stupid Longhair is like, so we're collateral? And Sam's like, yes. The police won't do the exchange unless there are lives at risk. So then other ladies like, is that supposed to make us feel better? And Winter's like, Sam, speak to me. And he's like, yes, all right, because she will not hand him over until you get off this train first. And Longhair's like, so you want us to carry on being hostages? He's like, that is the best chance of you staying alive. And they like stare at him. At control, they're waiting for a response. Then Clara points at the map. The train is moving. Otto calls, this is wagon 2600. We're about 20 minutes from the station. And Clara's like, Otto, are you okay? Where's Sam? And he looks at into the train car at other lady in Longhair. Longhair nods to her. So she holds the radio up to Sam. He's like, I'm here. Everything's on schedule when we pull in. If John Bailey Brown is there, then all these passengers will get off the train. And Winter's like, Sam, that's very good to hear. I'm glad we are communicating again. And they all give Sam a look. Daniel says to Stuart, the inmate, that if he stops messing around, there are things that he can do. And Stuart's like, he says he's behind bars. He knows as much as he does, which has become apparent, is very, or is like sweet F all. I think he says FA. I think that's what he's saying. Dan says that OCG have got their fingerprints all over this, so he just wants to know what he's heard. And Stuart's like, I haven't heard anything about what's going on in Berlin. And then Danny's like, so you agree something is going on? He's like, come on, Stuart. I know you're not an idiot. You're on remand, yeah? He's like, I could speak to the CPS, see if I can make your situation a little bit more comfortable. A few more privileges, bigger cell, and who knows, maybe we could even shave a few years off. Stuart's like, you can offer me the moon on a stick for all the good it'll do you. And then he's like, she'll tell you that. And he looks at the mirror. So he knows that Zara's there. And Daniel's like, amazing that this is what you do. Always looking out for your own bullocks. And look where that got you. So Olivia goes to the office at Faber, and the other guy, Lang, have been working out for the last 6 months. And Faber's like, they're probably the only 2 people on the planet more obsessed with John Bailey Brown than Sam Nelson is. Then he asks for the files she brought, and she's like, oh, I'm just a courier. And he's like, I've said from the beginning, Sam can't be behind all this. I'm willing to bet that the proof is somewhere in there. So she hands the folder over. And then he asks her if she told Winter that she was coming. She's like, I'm not the one going around behind people's backs. So it's like, that doesn't answer the question. Did she tell her? Because I don't think Winter would want her going. He looks at the file, like aircraft incident investigation report. He's like, there's a lot here. But he keeps flipping. And she's like I said, he was persistent. And Faber's like, he was also vulnerable. A vengeful father fixed on a man who he believed killed his son. Sam Nelson is a perfect mark, lured to Berlin to do someone else's dirty work. And see, so this is why I'm feeling that it's not, that maybe John Bailey Brown has another enemy. That it's not like his organization is trying to get him free. It's someone else that wants him. And they're using all of this to make it look like they're trying to get him out. Maybe. And she's like, and the CCTV evidence was the final piece. And Faber's like, and when we found out Bailey Brown was here, we told the Germans to destroy any evidence, including the CCTV. That's how we kept the whole project under the radar. I oversaw it personally. And she's like, but clearly someone chose to keep a little souvenir. And he's like, who? I've burned through all my contacts. Do you know anyone in Berlin who could help? And she thinks, she's like, there is someone. And he's like, good, set it up. And let's find out who sent that to Nelson. And I don't believe we find out this episode. I'm trying to think back. So the convoy they call they're 7 minutes out. The other lady on the train, she asked, like, who's the guy they're swapping? You know, he must be big fudging cheese, be worth hundreds of them. And she thinks that, of course, Sam owes him an explanation. It was like, who are you to be demanding anything? You know, Sam's like silent, and stupid long hair goes in a driver's car and tells Otto, he's like, you must know. He's like, surely Sam told you. Otto turns back at Sam, and long hair grabs him by the shoulder because he's like, oh, you're so tough. Then long hair walks up to Sam. He sets down the metal bar, and quietly he's like, why are you trying to free the man that killed your son? And Sam's like silent for a while. Then he's like, because they have his mother, and they will kill her too, unless I do exactly as they say. May and Fuzzy Hat, because they're nosy and they're just standing there listening, and Sam's like, now you know, yeah? And then stupid other lady, she's like, okay, but that's just one person. There's so many of us. And someone's like, just leave it, you know, says to her. Sam just closes his eye, kind of like bangs his head against the pole that he's tied to. In the countryside, Shotgun Dude says that, you know, they'll come back and deal with the dude in his car later. You know, for now, it's just out of sight. And the lady says, you know, what else could they do? You know, keep her up here and keep her in the dark. That's what they said. And then she grabs the dude's phone, which doesn't have a passcode. It's like, okay, you know, I don't know if they unlocked this somehow. So we see she starts sending a text to Daniel, but they don't show us what she types. And then she just like tosses it in the trunk. They close it and they walk off. Marcia happens to be close by. She didn't see the SUV, but she sees them walking. And, you know, as they're kind of walking away. Then the lady's like, tomorrow she can tell the police all she saw was rain, sheep, and a couple of well-mannered farmers. Then they kind of see, like, Marcia, like, walk up behind them. And then the lady asks Marcia, like, oh, you off already? And Marcia's like, no, just out for a walk. And the lady's like, looks like you scared off your stalker. And Marcia's like, yeah, it looks like it. And then tells them, you know, she's like, have a good one. And Marcia walks off. And then the lady asks, she's like, how long was she there? And then dude's like, I thought she was back at the house. And then the lady, she says the guy's name. And she looks down at his hands. He's holding the SUV keys. So it's like, did Marcia see that? Did she realize? Daniel asks Stewart if he wants to, you know, do you want to wrap this up? And Stewart says, well, it's up to you. He's like, I got nowhere else to be. And Daniel's like, that's right. He's like, after this, you go back to, you know, for the rest of your days. And Stewart's like, well, that's the life. And Daniel's like, that wasn't the life for Lewis, was it? Your little brother or your dad? He's like, the Cheapside firm, I think that's what they're called. They just chewed him up and spat him out. But that's what they do. Wasn't the life for Elaine either. That was his mom. He's like, I was there. I was the last person to speak to her before she was killed. And Stewart's like, Mom wasn't killed. She chose to die. And Daniel's like, that's what you're telling yourself? That it was honorable? Your mom was on the run. She was alone, and she was scared. You talk to me, Stewart. Help me out before you end up like her. And Stewart's like, Sam Nelson, the hero of Flight KA-29, has hijacked an underground train. And Daniel's like, there you go. And Stewart's like, got a TV in my cell. And Daniel's like, the bit that's not on the news is why. John Bailey Brown, that's who he's asking for. And then Stewart's like, and the Germans are just going to hand him over, are they? And Danny's like, looks that way, yeah. And Stewart's like, so you believe my old firm have staged a hijacking to bust Bailey Brown out of jail And you think I could shed some light on it? And Daniel's like, you're not on the record. It won't come back to you. Talk to me. You can help a lot of people. That's why we're here. It's not about helping me. It's not about helping Sam Nelson. This is about saving lives. Stuart's like, and you think the kingdom hijacking went well for me? I was put on that plane to die. That was a plan. And when it failed, I took the fall for what happened. Now, I either die in jail or I die out there like the rest of my family. And Danny's like, that's the life? Stuart's like, and I made peace with it. I'm totally cut off. I'm nothing. I know nothing. I am nothing. So it doesn't look like this is doing them any good. At Marsha's cabin, the couple approach, and the dude's like, is this necessary? No way she saw anything. She's stuck there now. No phone signal. Even if she does know, what is she going to do? The lady says the point is that they need to make sure. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? And she's like, give me the knife, quick. So they reach the door, and she's like, give me your hand. And then she like slices his palm. Then she knocks on the door. Marsha answers. The lady's like, I'm so sorry about this, miss, but my uncle here, he's only gone and cut himself climbing a wall. He still thinks he's 17. The guy like holds up his hand. Marsha's like, oh God. And the lady's like, you wouldn't have anything to clean it with, would you? And Marsha kind of hesitates for a second, and she's like, oh, come on in, of course. On the train, the older couple lady, she's like, I don't believe it. And May's like, she's like, he really did lose his son. And the lady's like, not that. She says the fact that they're just supposed to sit there and let it all happen. May's like, well, that's our best chance of surviving. Older lady says that if he said that he wasn't in control, he said that they're watching him, so they must be on a train. And May says that the person who killed Freddie. And the lady's like, exactly. The real murderer is among us, and we're supposed to ignore that? And May's like, well, look what happened the last time I listened to your theories. She's like, you're on your own. And she walks away. Then we see baby Benji and his mom, Leia. So she's at home or her apartment or whatever. And then the other lady, I think it's her mom, she takes Benji's bottle like to rinse it or whatever. And she opens a cap and she like looks in there. And she's like, Leia. And she like shows her like a USB stick. So Sam did stick it in there. So they need to get that to the authorities and try to decrypt it to see what's in there, like the footage. They can see Dr. Lady killed Freddie. On a train, Longhair asks Otto how long until they reach station. Otto says 5 minutes. Dr. Lady reaches in her bag, and an older couple lady walks up, and she's like, could I borrow your phone? Sam and the other lady look at her. The other lady's like, me? She's like, my phone? She's like, no, I don't have a phone. She asks teacher one, how about yours? And he's like, we threw them all out. And she's like, did we? And she looks at Dr. Lady, can I borrow yours? And she's like, I don't have mine either. Older lady's like, it's okay. I understand why you would keep it a secret. And she's like, Dr. Lady's like, I don't have a phone in my bag, lady. Jesus. Older lady grabs her bag and they kind of fight over it. And someone else like grabs it. Sam's like, hey, take it easy. So I guess Fuzzy Hat ended up taking the bag. And he like looks in there. He's like, I've seen this before. And Dr. Lady's like, don't touch that. And Fuzzy Hat's like, it controls the bombs. It's her. She's the one. And Sam's like, he's right. That's what that does, all right? And the other lady's like, you said you didn't know who was controlling the bombs. What else have you been lying about? It's like, oh my gosh. Longhair is like, stop the train. And Sam's like, no. So they pull the brakes, and they all lurch. The train stops on the track. At control, they say that he stopped again. So the bomb is on standby. It's like at 3 minutes, and then it switches to armed. So Fuzzy Hat's like, it says armed. It's like, how do we stop it? And Dr. Lee's like, by giving it back to me. Longhair like pushes her back against like the windows. He's like, no chance. Clara's like, Sam, are you there? What's happening? Cop dude, he's like, we have to stop the convoy. And Winter's like, let's try him at least one last time. And Clara's like, Sam? They're like, that's it. And then Winter nods to the cop dude. He gets on his phone. He calls a convoy. He's like, abort. In the car, they like pull off on a side road. They tell the detective dude there's apparently some issues with the train. Dr. Lady's like, there's no time for this. And Sam's like, this says that, there's just about to pull in the station. He's like, you're getting exactly what you want. Stop this. And she's like, I will if they give it back to me. And they're like, no, we're not giving you the detonator. And she's like, it's a timer, okay? She's like, I need to reset it every 15 minutes, a code for each carriage. If I don't, the bombs will detonate. And Fuzzy Hat's like, what's the code? I'll do it. And she's like, no, give it to me or you'll all die. Sam's like, that means you die too. It's not worth it. Just give us the code. So she thinks about that. And then she's like, 8349. And then we see that on the display, it switches to standby. And she's like, 4612. Switches to standby. I thought they would have to go in each car and do this, but I guess she can do it just in order like that. So then she's like, 1534, standby. And then the last one, 8753, 000, armed. And Fuzzy Hat's like, surprise. And she breaks free from long hair. She grabs the detonator. Fuzzy Hat's like, what'd you do? What does that mean? She's like, it means we're too late. And then they ask her, like, how do we stop it? You know, what, it's just going to detonate? And she's like, she looks at her, she's like, it's in the rear carriage. And Sam's like, untie me. He's like, come on, May. It's like, how long do we have? Dr. Lady's like, I don't know. He's like, what? Where are those keys? The other lady, she's like, they're in the door. He's like, Otto, I need everyone to get away from the back of the train. Get on the radio and tell them to move. He goes inside the car. Everyone to the front of the train. He goes to the next carriage. He continues. The older lady goes up to her husband, and she's like, I should have kept my mouth shut. And then a little later, she gets bumped from behind. Somehow gets like knocked out. She's like on the floor. She's like almost like unconscious. But then she starts coming to. I don't know what the point of that. Sam's like yelling. He's like, come on, come on. They're like, what? He's like, just move. And, you know, he closes the door to the final carriage, you know, walking back towards the front. And then boom. And that's the end of the episode. That's the end of the show. The whole train blows up. So just the last. So the question is, how powerful are these bombs? There's 2 per carriage. So assuming 2 trains go off, does that damage the third car? If that's the fourth car, will it damage the third? And what's in these bombs? If it's drugs, I don't know. All that stuff the detective dude read off, I don't know what that means. So is it going to spread? Are they not going to be able to breathe? I don't know. So that is episode 5. Like I said, things are heating up, but it's all these people. They're all ruining everything. This stupid long hair and stupid other lady. But like I said, I feel like that these people and whoever's in charge of this, it's not John Bailey Brown's organization. I mean, he doesn't know anything that's going on, but of course, maybe they had no way of talking to him. So I just feel like that there's something else going on, because otherwise it's too straightforward, too clean cut, clear and cut, whatever. That's episode 5. So there's 3 more episodes left. All right, let's talk Wonder Man. How long ago did you watch this episode? We are going to talk about season 1, episode 4, Doorman. So this was, if you've seen it, if you know anything about it, you know that this episode is a slight departure, which it's an interesting decision and how they do that. And I was just curious. I just looked it up. Like I just paused and looked up. Like, how does this episode do compare to the others? Like, and now, of course, I'm trusting IMDb. You know, with their stellar, accurate ratings. I don't know. They're not always accurate, but. So the reason I'm doing this, in case you haven't watched it and you're following along with me week by week, is this is a flashback episode. We find out, like, who is Doorman. If you've read the comics, in particular Great Lakes of Avengers, you know who Doorman is. And when they mentioned that in the first episode, like the Doorman clause, I'm like, are they talking about Doorman? Are they actually going there? And believe they are, because I don't ask me what Doorman's name is in the comics. I'm assuming it's what we find out here. What this episode serves, it explains what the Doorman clause is, whatever they call it, and it's a flashback episode. To do that, it's all in black and white. So again, decisions were made, and they decided to do that because when you first watch it, it's like, oh, is this old-timey? Is this like in the 1930s? That's what I automatically think about when I think about like 30, or not 30, when I think about like black and white stuff. But no, it's pretty recent. and you'll see why. Because of people at this show. We have some more actual people playing themselves in there, which is a interesting choice as well. But I was curious, how is this going to do? Because it's not even really about Simon or Trevor. It's more about let's find out what's going on in this world, and I can totally appreciate, and that's what I dig about this is almost like a behind the scenes look at the Marvel universe. This is like we're peering behind the curtains or in a corner. We're going somewhere else versus what we normally see, like, oh, here's Avengers Towers, here's this or whatever. So I think it's kind of cool that we're getting this. I wouldn't necessarily say street level. It's not like Daredevil. It's like a totally different area. And looking at the ratings, so just going through the whole thing, because all episodes are out, as you know. The first episode on IMDb has a 7.5 rating. Second episode, 7.5. Third episode, Pokoima, which we talked about last week, was a 7.7. So people like that one a little more, where you find out about Simon's past, his family, his mom, and stuff like that. Episode 4 this week is a 7.5. So it dipped a teeny tiny bit from last week's from episode 3, but it's the same as episode 1 and 2. So people are liking it at about the same. Looking forward, so episode 5 next week, we'll talk about that, is a 7.6. Episode 6 is a 7.8. It's getting better. Episode 7, 8.0. And episode 8, 8.3. So the show is getting better and better, apparently. Or people who aren't liking it aren't putting their negative reviews, whatever. But it was, I'm pretty sure it was certified fresh and all that stuff. And I think there was like hints like, will there be a season 2 or whatever? But well, I have no idea. Luckily, I haven't been spoiled, so I don't even know how this ends. So I'm really curious to see, what's going to happen. So let us begin, so this doesn't end up being like 5 hours long. Episode 4, Doorman. And so, like I said, it starts out black and white. Even the beginning, it's like Marvel Studios presents Doorman. So we see this guy, he's at the door of a club, and he tells a couple ladies, he's like, well, I can't just let you in. And they're like, why not? He's like, well, you see right there, it says you're, he's looking at their ID. It says you're from Texas. And I heard they dance weird out there. And he's like, yeah, we don't do none of this in LA. And he like slaps his knee. Woohoo! He's like, no say no. Tell your mama you're too slow. And the ladies laugh. And she's like, I think we'll be okay. And he's like, all right, get your ass in there, girl. And then Josh Gad shows up. Olaf from Frozen and other stuff, right? I think he's forever going to be Olaf no matter what. He was LeFou, right? So he comes up. He gets out of SUV. He's like very loud. He's playing himself, and the dude doorman. He's like, Mr. Gad, how you doing, sir? He's like, come on, man. He's like, call me Josh or J Gad. He's like, I'm trying to make that a thing. Anyways, what's cooking tonight? And the dude's like, oh, y'all gonna have fun tonight. We got the guy from Imagine Dragons DJing. This is the second time they've mentioned Imagine Dragons in the Marvel Universe. The first was in Hawkeye, where one of the bros really liked Imagine Dragons. He got tickets for his girlfriend, and Kate Bishop was kind of like giving him a hard time about that. So does this mean people at Marvel, do they like Imagine Dragons, or do they not like Marvel? Do they not like Imagine Dragons? Are they praising them? Are they making fun? Or are they doing both? Is there some connection? I don't know. And so then Josh Gad's like, Radioactive is the most important song in the last 3 years. Easy. So that lets us know around about when this takes place. And he's like, listen, if things slow down out here, why don't you come in and have a drink with me? Yeah? And the doorman guy, he's like, oh, that's very nice of you. Then later he's talking to a lady at the bar. So I'm assuming she's like the owner. Because, at first I thought she like the bartender, whatever. But she's like writing this big book, whatever, the receipts and stuff like that. He says it seems like it was lively in there. The line outside was slammed. She says people ate poop when Olaf started crowd surfing. And then she's like, do you realize the first time I tipped you out was over 3 years ago? He's like, you're kidding. He's like, I've been here that long. And she's like, do you like working here, Damar? That's his name, Damar. And he's like, of course. Why do you say that? And she's like, we don't normally have employees last with us this long. It's Hollywood. Everyone's an actor or model, and, working here is just a stepping stone. And he's like, that ain't me. He's like, I like this gig. It's fun. The tips are good. I get to talk to people and be myself. That's all I really need. And she's like, you don't meet a lot of people in this town who are happy with where they're at. And she's like, hold on to that. And he's like, why wouldn't I? And she's like, probably because you're going to be hauling a stinky bag of garbage in about 2 seconds. So she hands him back from behind the bar. He was like, fun while it lasted. So he goes out the door, foreshadowing, the door sticks a little bit. He like has to like really push it. Goes out in the alley, lifts the lid to a dumpster, and I guess it's full. But it's like, it seems like you could fit in at least one bag of garbage in there. But then he looks at the next garbage can, or next dumpster, which is probably not their dumpster, and you're probably not supposed to do this. On the outside, guess what it says? It says Roxxon, Roxxon. Now, we know Roxxon. I saw like on Threads or someone's like, is this the first time they mentioned Roxxon in Marvel Universe? And me and some others were like, no, they mentioned it in Cloak and Dagger. If you watch Cloak and Dagger, which probably some people didn't, that's how Cloak and Dagger got their powers, was from Roxxon. So, okay, cool. There's some like dark ooze or something. I mean, it's hard to say what it is because it's black and white, but there's like a hole like in the bottom, like corner of the dumpster, just black ooze just dripping out. And he looks in, and it kind of looks like there's like a sinkhole or something. He decides to reach into it, and then it's like he gets pulled in or something. There's like all this darkness. And then he like exhales, and there's like nothing around him. It's just him. And then a door opened. The closed captions say, portals warbling. And then there's lots of doorways, or they look like doorways. You know, they look like white doors, but I guess they're portals. And they're presenting themselves to him. He looks around. He's like, no. And he starts like freaking out. He screams and he passes out. Poosh, falls back. But he wakes up. He's on a wooden floor. And then it looks like he's in someone's living room, and he had gasped. He feels himself, like, is he all there? He looks around. This little dog, like, barks and runs up to him. So it's his dog, Chance. So he must be in his apartment. But then there's a portal warble. So as he's sitting on the floor, the dog runs up to him because he's like, hey, Chance. The dog, like, jumps, like, in his lap, but then is gone before he can like hug his dog or whatever. And he looks around for Chance. He's like confused, and he hears a distant barking, and then he puts his ear to the floor. He yells at Chance. He's like, Chance, I'm coming. He goes downstairs. This part that kind of bothered me. He goes downstairs to knock on a neighbor's door downstairs, and as he knocks, the door is open for some reason. Who would leave their apartment? It's like not even latched. He didn't like turn the handle and open it. He just went to knock, and then the door like swings open. So he's like, is this a setup? Is something going to happen? He's like, hello. And then he sees Chance. But then a lady walks out of the bathroom in a towel and screams, dude, why are you showering without locking your front door? It's like, I don't care if you're in a building and if there's like a security comm thing or whatever, a buzzer, whatever you want to call it. It's like, you don't leave your door open. And obviously she doesn't know who Damar is, you know, even though they live in the same building, they're neighbors. But because she screams. And she's like, what are you doing in my apartment? But, you know, I say the bigger question is, why is your door not even latched shut? And he's like, ma'am, this is a misunderstanding. I put my hand in some goo, and all of a sudden my dog fell through the floor. And she's like, get out. She throws like a glass at him, but it goes like into him. It goes somewhere else. And because he like tries blocking like after the fact, but then it appears behind him and falls. And he's like, whoa, I'm leaving. So he grabs Chance and he backs out of the apartment. Okay, whatever. He goes back to the alley. The Roxxon dumpster is gone, so he can't check it out. So did that really happen? Was there? I mean, must have been. Later, he's back working at the door. His boss comes up to him and then asks if he's okay. He's like, yeah, it's been kind of a weird day. And he like apologizes. And she's like, no, it's okay. She's like, you know, we're packed tonight, pushing it on the fire code. She's like, don't let anyone else in. Inside, Josh Gad is there again. He's singing. I think he's singing his Olaf. He's talking about melting. And then he actually like pours a drink on a guy's head. It might have been water, but the guy didn't like get upset. I guess it's like, oh, cool. Josh Gad is pouring water on me. Yay. Or something like that. But then there's lots of sparks and stuff going on. And at first it's like, is there like pyrotechnics in the club? That doesn't seem normal, whatever. But then a fire starts. And I don't know if it's part from the water being poured out on the floor or whatever. Everyone's kind of oblivious what's going on. Outside, Damar hears like a crashing noise. An alarm goes off. Bridget, his boss, she's out there too. And they run inside. But the door, guess what? The door is stuck. So they're liable for this because is there no other exit to this club? There's only one way in. They both like try pulling it open. People are panicking inside. Like someone gets knocked down. Damar is like, I can't get it open. And she's like, keep trying. I'm going to go call the fire department. Inside, people are like pushing. He exhales. He like kind of looks around and he pushes his way through, but he like kind of falls over. And people are yelling and they're confused now. And he's like, the door was jammed. He's like, quick, go through me. And some lady's like, what do you mean? Go. And he's like, go through me. And they're like confused. Josh Gad walks up. He's like, he's saying he wants us to go through him. And he like kind of hesitantly reaches out. He's like, how do I do this? Do I just enter you? Damar's like, I don't know, really. Hold on. Just give me a second. He's like, now. And then Josh Gad's like, ugh. He's like, oh, all right. And then he's like, why am I doing this? He's like, oh God, look at that. Look, there's the other side. And then just his head pops out. It works. Everyone follow me. Exit through Damar. So they start going through him. He's like, hurry, this poop ain't easy. Later, he's sitting on a curb with like a blanket, the paramedics, whatever, fire department's there. Josh Gad like sits next to him and like startles him or something like that. He's like, hey, I just wanted to come out here and say thank you. And Damar's like, don't sweat it. He's like, I'm sure anybody would have done that. And he's like, are you being serious now? You just saved everybody's life in the building. You saved my life. I got to pay you back. Damar's like, I don't need anything. I'm good. And then Josh Gad's like, how about a new job? And he's like, what? He's like, Damar, after what you did tonight, there's no way, no offense, that you can be a doorman anymore. He's like, come work for me. I'll put you on the payroll. And Damar's like, look, Mr. J. Gad, I appreciate it, but I'm fine here. Got a good boss. And then Josh Gad cuts him off. Starting salary is $200K plus benefits. And Damar's like, yeah, that'll work. And he holds out his hand as they shake. And then we get the news. Mario friggin' Lopez, Slater from Saved by the Bell. I don't know, is he still on Access Hollywood or Entertainment? I don't know what show. He's doing some Hot Goss or something like that. I don't know if that's the name of the show. He's like, Josh Gad is in the news again. The Frozen Star is catching fire and turning heads with his new superpower personal valet. The man in question appears to be Damar Davis, former Wilcox employee, who's affectionately been dubbed Doorman. He's been spotted all over town with Josh and seemingly has a power to move himself and his boss through solid walls. And we see some footage like they exit like a building and go outside and they run to the car or whatever. Zig Davis recently saved a crowd from a fire at a popular nightclub. Now it seems he's exclusively using his talents in service of Gad. Meanwhile, this Mormon has just booked a new project, an action comedy called Cash Grab. You might say this former LeFou is Gaston a roll. Oh my gosh. So then a guy's watching a news clip on his phone. And he walks up to a food table that Damar is at, and he makes like some small talk, introduce himself. He's Frank Preminger, Hanover Agency. He's like, whatever ad or actor agent dude. And Damar's like, oh, I heard of that. And then the guy, he's like, Damar, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, the doorman. He's like, live and direct. So they shake. And then Damar's like, ding dong. And Frank, he's like, you're a funny guy. You ever think about acting? He's like, nah, not my thing, Frank. Besides, who will get J. Gad his snack plate? So then Josh Gad is sitting back talking about the script. He says the heist is feeling kind of flat. They need something more original. Damar comes over, brings them some food. A couple guys, I think they're writers or whoever, are talking about like different things that they could try. Josh Gad's like staring at Damar. And, the guys are saying that they need the vault to be impenetrable. The whole point is that this crew is the only ones that on the planet that can get in or out. Josh finally speaks up. I may have something. And then the two talk later, and Damar's like, look, man, I want to help out. I can't act. And Josh is like, who cares? I can't act. It's never stopped me from being an actor. We'll make sure it's only a couple of lines. This will be easy. I'm telling you. And Damar's like, you know what's easy? If you bring somebody else in, keep the idea, brilliant idea. Bring in a real actor, then you can fake it with CGI. And Josh Gad's like, yeah, but what makes it cool is that it's you. People know who you are. They'll go crazy. And Damar's like, I don't know. I'm more comfortable behind the scenes. Josh Gad's like, Damar, there is a reason that you are making headlines. You have something that other people just don't. It's a charisma, a charm. On top of all that, you can become a door. It's not every day that an opportunity like this just falls into your lap. You do realize that, right? He's like, all right. He's like, yeah, it's going to be great. So then we see a scene inside the vault. The crew enters. Josh Gad said they've been training 10 years for this, and now they've only got 30 seconds to grab some cash. And it's like, why are you sitting there talking? So they start like grabbing like gold bars and stuff like that. But then the power flickers, and apparently the vault door is locked. This one lady in the crew, she yells at the other guy. She's like, I knew you tripped the silent alarm. And the guy's like, what difference does it make? He's like, we're all going to die. And Josh Gad's character yells at him. It's like, hey, keep it together, you two. And one of the guys like, why, Jake? It's time to panic. And he's like, I wouldn't be so sure about that. And then Damar walks through the door wearing a mask. It looks like Doorman in a comic. It's just black with like kind of like diamond white eyes, or whatever. And he pulls off the mask. Ding dong, mother truck. And then it cuts to an audience like watching, cheering, and applauding. Damar's like stands there. They're chanting, Doorman, Doorman. He walks to the stage. He joins the other actors and Josh. And Josh Gad's like, what did I tell you, huh? They love you. Then we see him make a guest appearance on some sitcom called like Murphy's Family or whatever. And then he's like at a movie award. He's presenting for best visual effects. And he's like, where's that thing? He's like, oh, wait, I got this. He reaches himself, pulls out an envelope. Ding dong, babies. Ding to the dong. It's like, that's not going to get old. And then there's like Celebrity Justice. This week's guest judge isn't afraid to tell it like it is. He's like, ding dong. I said ding dong, you ding dongs. On a flight attendant says, like, oh, I'm a big fan. He's like, you want to take a pic? And then they take the selfie. He goes to the club where he used to work. He's like, I remember this place. And he gets let in. And he tells the guy, if things quiet down, why don't you come and have a drink with us? And he does like a finger gun. He's like, ding dong. He's dancing, drinking shots, throws out some money like to the crowd or whatever. Bridget, his former boss, comes and they hug, they talk, and she's like, I haven't seen your movie yet, whatever. She's like, sorry, and asks if he's happy. He's like, yeah, things are great. And he's like, I just got off the phone with my agent. He's like, I just landed something huge, a commercial contract. And she's like, wow. He's like, yeah, life's about to change. Then he's like in his dressing room. He's like, he searches hashtag doorman. And he's like, what the hell? And he like reads the results. Wouldn't knock knock make more sense as a catchphrase? And he's like, that's a good one, Samuel. Mark that one. And then another one's like, please tell me when his 15 minutes are up. And someone else like, getting real tired of this ding dong business. Hashtag one joke wonder. And then someone's like, says, some fools are hating, but doorman still makes me smile. And Damar's like, thank you. There's a knock on his door. Lady's like, I'll come grab you in a bit for rehearsal. And he's like, let me know if you need anything else. This guy comes in. He's like, oh, I'm a big fan. And Damar says that, he was looking over the pages. And dude's like, well, we wrote that at like 3 o'clock in the morning, man. He's like, go easy on me. And Damar's like, no, it ain't that. It's just, I'm a little nervous about the bit. And the guy's like, don't sweat it. People, love when you can poke a little fun at yourself, man. Trust me. And he's like, okay, cool. So dude's like, well, I got to go back to rehearsal. So he's like the host of like some late night show or whatever like that. Midtown Tonight. Show starts. He calls Damar a D-list actor. I don't know if it's because he is a D-list actor or D for doorman, whatever. And he's like, welcome to Ding Dong Tonight. Do night. And then he says that he's like, oh, I'm a little thirsty. He acts like he's pulling a bottle out of himself, but he's really pulling it from like under the desk or something like that. He pretends to drink. And he's like, tastes like door. A ding-a-dong. And the dude is like not funny. And Damar seems to agree with me as he's watching backstage. Then the dude acts like he pulls out something else. He's like, oh, it's my mixtape. He's like, ding dong. And then he pulls out a football. He's like, I call this the go long ding dong. And the audience seems to be enjoying his joke, or maybe they just have a laugh, applause sign or something like that. Damar comes out on stage. So the dude's name's Earl. He's like, hey, he's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I thought you were hiding from the IRS. And Damar's like, Earl, come on. You got to cool it with those rumors. And that impression, he's like, ding dong. I mean, who is that? That's not me, is it? I mean, I'm much more than just a catchphrase. Earl, a lot of people don't realize that I've been taking classes at the Stellar Adler Academy. And Earl's like, really? He's like, yeah. And he's like, well, let's see some of that training. The audience cheers. He stands, the light dims. He reaches in, pulls out a skull. He's like, alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite ding-dongs. And I don't know if he's purposely delivering it bad. It wasn't good. The audience laughs, but you can see that he's not thrilled with the line. Then he's at a bar. This commercial for Expolax comes on, which is probably supposed to be like a laxative. His agent comes in, Frank, and DeMar says, he's like, oh, you're like an hour late. And Frank says, he's like, well, what do you want to talk about? And DeMar's like, Expolax. And they said the campaign would be smart and elevated, like Seinfeld and American Express, but these... And Frank's like, yeah, about that. Ogilvy's cutting the contract short. They just feel like the joke's a little stale. And DeMar's like, exactly. That's why we need to come up with some new ideas. He's like, let me pitch you. He's like, it's too late, DeMar. They already signed Michael Strahan. So Michael Strahan, I was like, wait, who's that? So he's an American television host, former defensive end. He was like on Kelly Ripa. He was like the co-host after, what's his name left? Yeah, what, you know what I'm talking about, maybe. And he's like, and he's like, Strahan? He's like, yeah. And DeMar's like, that don't make sense. He's just a normal guy. And Frank's like, he's charming AF and apparently suffers from chronic constipation. And DeMar's like, damn. He's like, can we fight this? I mean, we got a contract, right? And Frank's like, I don't think we want to take on a huge advertising agency. And DeMar's like, things are getting pretty tight behind the car payments and a few other things. And Frank's like, oh, come on, DeMar. You got to be more careful with your money. You know how this business works. You can't count on the next paycheck until it's in your hands. And DeMar's like, you never said that. And he's like, well, I'm saying it now. You don't have any other superpowers you didn't tell me about, right? And DeMar's like, just a door thing. He's like, cool. Okay, well, look, this is a dip. This is a tiny little dip. And we're going to get back on top. We're going to get you something better, something smart and elevated. Trust me. Then he's selling America's #1 potato bag. Not sold in stores. It's like a home shopping network type of thing. There's like number 15551 POTATO. So he's like, you don't need a pot anymore. With the potato bag, your potatoes will come fluffy on the inside and chewy on the outside. Just drop it and plop it in the microwave. He's like, hear that sound? I think the potatoes just went ding dong. And then it cuts to Mario Lopez on screen again. Well, looks like Doorman is back in the news. Only this time, the overnight success finds himself in a bit of hot water. Steam might be more accurate. DeMar Davis has been hit with several lawsuits over his involvement with the potato bag product, which has been found to cause severe steam burns. Ouch. And you see like someone's arm getting all wrapped up from steam. It's like, I know you have to do it. It would be like common sense. You microwave something in a bag, in a microwave, of course there's going to be steam in there. What do you think? I mean, but that's the whole like the popcorn thing, microwave popcorn, where it's like there may be steam. It's like, are you an idiot? Were you born yesterday? So then he does like a live stream on Instagram or something like that. He's sitting in his car. He's like, hey, doorknobs. He's like, I just wanted to get on today just to let you know that I'm sorry to the hundreds of you who experienced steam burns from using the potato bag. I want you to know that I'm in full support of the class action lawsuit and that I too was misled by Food America Product Incorporated. I think at this moment, I need to take some time to step away and really reflect on where all this is going for me and you. And then like the camera shifts, to not his like his phone camera, where we see he's in his car and there's like a box of potato bags in his back seat. He's like, so stay supportive and I will stay supporting you and keep knocking, something like that. So he ends the video. He looks at some past dues and some envelopes like for his car, gas company. Then his phone vibrates. JGAD. He puts on an act. He's like, poop. And Josh Gad's like, there's my best friend. And DeMar's like, I miss you, man. And Josh Gad's like, I miss you more. He's like, guess what, though? Studio wants cash grab, too. And he's like, really? He's like, hell yeah. He's like, you BSing. He's like, no, man, we're getting the band back together. You in? And DeMar's like, of course I'm in. And Josh Gad's like, beautiful, man. And DeMar's like, let's do it. And he's like, yeah? He's like, hell yeah. Josh Gad's like, amazing. All right, I'll be in touch, bud. And DeMar's like, all right. The call ends. He sighs. He's like, thank you. He's like, don't mess this up. Then we see him in like the door portal room. We hear people whispering, voices say ding dong. He starts yelling. He's dreaming. He wakes up by a knock at the door. Woman calls out that they're inviting him to set again. He looks like he has like a massive headache or something like that. And he's like, oh, I'm coming. So the group walks the set. One guy is like saying Cash Grab 2 is upping their game on the stunts. And DeMar says to the guy, he's like, hey, you're that Incredible Hulk, huh? You ain't that tall. I don't know why he says that because it's I don't know who it is. The other guy's like, Damar, you all right with that, right? The stunts? He's like, of course. Me and Tom Cruise, we do our own stunts, baby. And then they're like, Damar, you good, bud? He's like, yeah, I'm good to go. And they're like, okay. He's like, GTG. Cameras are rolling, just like a driving scene. They're in the back of an armored truck or something like that. Damar and Josh Gad are in the back. Gad's character says that they got one shot at this. So Damar leans against the wall. Gad grabs like a sack of loot. He throws it at Damar's stomach and it goes through. And he like grunts and his stomach gurgles. And Gad grabs another sack, tosses it through. Damar grunts and I guess he like blows like a raspberry or something like that. Gad grabs another sack and he's like, I'm going through. So he pushes the bag through and goes with it because we see like the bags going through the set, like outside the set, landing on the floor. So Josh Gad pushes the bag through, goes with it. And as he goes through, or after, he goes through Damar like projectile vomits like a bunch of liquid. And on the other side of the set, the man's like, where is he? Gad isn't with the other sacks. And someone's like, he didn't come out. So Cruz like stands around, they're looking around. Inside, Damar like regains his breath. He yells out to J Gad, and he's like frantically like feels the stomach. We see Mario Lopez again. Where is Josh Gad? The world wants to know. It's been months since he disappeared inside Damar Davis, and the Department of Damage Control is still searching for answers. So then we see the DODC Department of Damage Control Deputy Secretary Hairdale, he's holding press conference. I think this is a guy we saw like leading the meeting, whatever. He's like, we want to assure the American public that the department takes this horrific incident seriously. Damar Davis will be continually monitored for the rest of his life. We will do everything in our power to ensure a tragedy of this magnitude never happens again. And Mario Lopez is like, while the DODC continues to probe, experiment, and investigate every inch of Damar Davis, Hollywood is now waiting. Every major studio in Hollywood is doing their part to avoid another possible tragedy. They're calling it the doorman clause. And we see Simon in color watching Mario Lopez's report. And he's like, going forward, it will be nearly impossible for superpower individuals to perform in major motion picture or TV roles. The insurance required now, astronomical. So Simon's like on set. He's like wearing medical scrubs. And this other actor is like, everything all right? And he's like, And they're like, is it bad news? He's like, oh no, it's good. And then he like looks, because there's a bunch of people wearing scrubs are sitting. He like looks around, he sighs, he gets up, and he walks out of the big room, the studio set room, and that's the end of the episode. So, as we know, Simon Williams has some sort of powers. We don't really know what. He's got this energy stuff. He's got obviously super strength because he shattered his mom's island in her kitchen. And so he knows he has powers. He lied about it because he wants to be an actor. When he tried out for Wonder Man, he signed a clause. So if that comes out, that's a breach of contract. Somehow, Damage Control, Department of Damage Control, has hints that he has superpowers. They because of the fire incident that he wasn't injured. I don't know what else they might have on him. But it seems silly that they just want to arrest him because he might have superpowers. This is like Mutant Registration Act or whatever. It's like let's arrest him and put him in jail because our jails are half empty and we need to make sure we're getting money from whatever, the government. So next episode, we'll have to see what happens. All right, 56 Days, new show on Prime. It has Dove Cameron in it, and I keep forgetting the dude's name. I know he's dating. I think they're dating Halsey, the singer. His name, Avon Jogia, and he. So I mentioned, Dove Cameron was in a Nickelodeon show. He was also apparently in one. I think it was Victorious or something like that. I don't know. But my daughter knew who he was. She hasn't watched the show yet, so I have no idea what her opinion is on it. And this is one that you might not want to watch with the family. It's not all age appropriate. And so here's the thing. I think I said at the beginning of the show, I think it's considered an erotic thriller. It doesn't need to be. So, I mean, I've only watched one episode, and part of the premise is this couple meeting and hooking up, but part of the thing is there's a murder mystery, and you don't know who it is. You don't know if it's, I'm going to say this right now because I don't know. You don't know if it's the guy that's been killed. You don't know if it's the girl, Dove Cameron, who's been killed. You don't know if it's some other random hostess at a cocktail bar that's been killed. You don't know who it is. You just know where it is. And that is part of the thing is, like I said, and you'll, spoilers for this first episode, once you see it, then it's like, it leads you into thinking like, oh, it's got to be, I'll say it right now, when you first watching, you think it's the guy's a killer, because I'll say this right now, it's at his apartment. But as you go through and you start seeing some other things, it's like I still want to feel like it's him, but maybe it's not him, because that would be the obvious choice, right? But then maybe they're totally deflecting. Like, we're going to make it super obvious and we're going to throw all these clues or hints that it's not, but it really is. So let's just get started. It starts off. So it's season 1, episode 1. I don't know if they'll ever make another season. I have no idea. Depends on how it ends. Everyone dies at the end. I don't know. But I think it's listed as season 1. And the episodes don't have title, which always bothers me. It's like, come on, man, do this little thing. I think there's like some fun, be a little creative. It's just chapter 1. So we see this person in a ski mask enters. Like, at first I'm like, is this a hotel room? Is this an office building? It's like, what's going on here? Because they have a key. It's like it could be an office. There's like some very interesting art like on the wall. The guy has a key, so it's dark in there, and it's like, was there a party in there? Because there's like stuff out, like clothing, like jacket, whatever's out. I wonder whose jacket that was. I don't know if I'm not going to go back and watch, but there's like drinks and stuff like that. It's like the fireplace is on. It's probably like one of those electric fireplaces like that. And then he goes in the bathroom. Like, what the heck is in the bathtub? Because it's like it's been sitting in there in a while, because there's definitely like a film of stuff on there. And then he takes some pictures with his phone. And then I'm thinking, it's like, wait a minute, there was like some food out. Was that food? We saw something. Was that like moldy food on the table? So it wasn't like there was just a party there. So he does this, took some pictures, and then he goes out in the hall and he like smashes a fire alarm and pulls a fire alarm. And then it cuts to, then it says, I'm not sure when that was, but then it says today. So the scene goes in reverse. Because I think that they're saying that was today. It goes backwards. And then you see like the broken glass from the fire alarm. It goes back. The dude walks backwards. The screen's like day 56. And it starts counting backwards. And we see different things. We get like a glimpse of Dove Cameron. We see like someone underwater. Could be some other time. Because there's like previews where she's taking a bath there. But it could be anyone. We see her and the other dude like in the kitchen kissing. And it's coming back like, day 10, whatever. You see like outside at day 9, day 5, day 4. And then, we see like the skull in the bathtub. But it's like, wait, that doesn't make sense. It would be at day 4. Maybe. And then there's like a close-up of her eyes, and then the show logo, 56 days. And then it's day 1. So we get a shot of the apartment, of a different apartment. So we see Dove Cameron. Her character's name is Ciara Wise. She gets ready for her day. She has this like NASA like tote bag. She gets on the subway, goes to like some salad bar. It might be like a Whole Foods, I don't know. And then the dude, Avon, Jogia, his name is Oliver Kennedy. He's like checking her out. He seems like a creepy guy, but maybe he's like, oh, here's this pretty girl, this pretty lady, whatever. He kind of arranges where they kind of go around a corner, they bump into each other, and it's like, did he plan that? Because he was definitely checking her out. And then he's like, are you in line? And she's like, no. And then there's like a pause, and then she's like, I got the wrong drink. Because she has like one of those vitamin waters or something like that. And she walks away. And then he stares at her. And as she's walking away, it's like, okay, come on, dude, you're making it. So this is what I'm saying. He comes off very creepy. And, maybe it's not intentional, but I think it kind of is a little. So then he stands outside like a creep. He's outside the building. And he doesn't even have any. And he went in there. What did he buy? He has no groceries or food or drink or nothing. She walks by, and he's like, hey, NASA. And she looks at him confused. He's like, your bag. I like it. I like your bag. And he like chuckles. And she's like, thanks. It's from the Space Museum in New York. And he's like, yeah, no, I know, the Intrepid. I've always wanted to go. And she's like, it's cool, but the Kennedy Space Center, I think, is cooler. And, she says some more details as to why, whatever like that. And he's like, oh, are you trying to impress me? And she's like, maybe. And she laughs. And he's like, well, it's working. And he's like, can you name all the shuttles? And she's like, no, I don't think so. I'm not that good. And he's like, I'm Oliver, by the way. And she's like, I'm Ciara. And he's like, Ciara, you want to go get coffee with me? And so they go to like a coffee cart. And he says his office is right up there on the corner. And she's like, oh, so is mine. And she says that's the only reason that you'd catch her in a store with a dedicated kombucha section. And he says he likes kombucha, something about it tasting revolting and being really expensive. Then he asks her what she does, and she says she's in tech support, and she shows him her ID badge. And he's like, ah. And she's like, yeah, for a cloud company, it's mostly, like backup and recovery and stuff like that. He's like, And she's like, what about you? He's like, I work in architecture. And she kind of goes wide-eyed. He's like, no, I don't draw the plans. I just talk about them. And you always wonder about this. People are like, I'm going to be in architecture. But it's like, how much demand is there? And I know nothing. How much demand is there for architecture? Because you go to city, the buildings are all built. But sure, they sometimes make new building. I remember when I worked in the city, and I was always so fascinated watching the skyrise being built. And, walking by and just seeing it, it's like getting taller and taller. So maybe they demolish and add on. I don't know, but whatever. He's like, I just talk about it. He's like, so are you from here? And she's like, no, my dad was in the Navy, so I grew up all over. But I moved to Boston a week ago for my work. And he's like, oh, me too. And he's like, well, I moved here a couple months ago. And then he's like, dang, I finally find someone who's interesting and she can't even show me around. Then he says that this might be a little presumptuous, but he's going to ask anyways. He's like, there's a documentary on Apollo 11 playing at a theater in Brookline on Wednesday. So she want to go with him. And she asked, does he know where Brookline is? And he's like, I have no idea where that is, but they can find it together. And she thinks about it, and she's like, okay. It's like he just happens to know that there's a documentary about Apollo 11. So she asked for his phone, and he said that he's heard of a place that does good cocktails so they can meet there. And she's like, okay, see you there. She walks off. He looks at his phone. She created like a new contact. In the notes, she listed 6 shuttle names, and he chuckles. I don't know how many shuttles. Have there been more than 6 shuttles? Are there only 6? I don't know, but she knew him. He like calls out, that's funny. And, she like glances at him and, keeps walking. And he just like stares at her walking away, and he looks creepy. It's almost like he's like angry or something. He's just got this, but that's just how some people look sometimes, I guess. I don't know. Then it cuts to today. There's a woman like sitting in her car, like in the burbs. Her name's Lee Reardon. She's waiting for this guy, Carl. She gets a call from dispatch. So like, oh, she's a cop. And then she's like tired of waiting. So she goes in the house, and he's like, oh, I'm in here. So he's inside making breakfast. So apparently he got trash on a date last night. So he's eating pancakes. We find out he's like newly split with his wife because she cheated on him. I think she said that he cheated. His wife cheated with his brother or something. I don't know, something like that. So police are putting up a do not cross, whatever tape around the office building. Or actually, it's not an office building; it's an apartment. But at this point, it's like it's still not clear. So Lee and Carl arrive. She says it's a suspected homicide. Call came through the fire department. That's all that they know. They're told that the call came in at 5:38, but it was a false alarm triggered by hand in the lobby. And, she's like, well, who cares, until they found the smell. And decomp coming out of number 11 is too strong for an animal. They knocked, but there's no answer. The door was unlocked. So Carl, they're like walking with these two regular officers. So he's like, what'd you do? Did you go in there and touch everything? And the other officer's like, nah, we taped it off, waited for you. And then Lee looks up at the apartment with the binoculars. And Carl asks if they talk to neighbors, see who lives there. And they say that they did, but no one knows. And this guy comes up to Carl and wonders, like, he's like, who's this douchebag? And they're like, oh, he's a property manager. His name's Kevin Sullivan. So he's like, oh, Kevin Sullivan, Watertown Management Group. And Lee notices there's like a shadow in the apartment below number 11, but it kind of moves back into darkness. So it's like, who's that? There must be someone that knows something. Carl asks the dude who lives in number 11. He's like, I have no idea. He's like, that's a corporate rental, short-termers in and out. He says that if they have a warrant, that he can go grab a master key. Officer's like, well, the door's open, so we don't need a key. And Carl says, nor do we need a warrant, man. And Lee says that they're getting one anyways. In the meantime, they'll stay in the public areas. So then it goes to day 3. So that was today. Now we're going back to day 3. Apartment number 11. So we see Oliver's in the shower. Then they show us the empty tub on the other side. So at this point, we now know it's like, okay, this is Oliver's apartment. There is the bathtub where there is going to be a body in there in 53 days now, or less. Ciara's getting ready, and then they're meeting up. So Oliver, he checks his mail, gets a new driver's license. He takes his old one out of his wallet, holds them side by side, and we see his old one is a California license, and it says Oliver Jennings. His new one says Oliver Kennedy, and also lists apartment 11 as his residence. So this is supposed to be like a short-term apartment, but he's listed as his address. Why does he have a new wallet, or not a new wallet? Why does he have a new license with a different last name? So this right there is like, that's a little suspicious. And there's even like, you can see like his signature, the first name looks the same, the way he makes writes Oliver, whatever, but the last name's different. And the birthdays, they might be the same. It's like January 14th, 1992. Ciara's like waiting around for him, and then he arrives, apologizes, and she says that she's just glad it's the right place because it looks kind of shady outside, but inside it looks pretty high end. Hostess takes them to like a couple sofas and said their server will be right over. So I guess they don't get tables, you just sit. That's how fancy the place is. There's no table. You just sit in sofa and you drink some cocktails or whatever. To Oliver, the hostess, she's like, good to see you again. And it's like, uh-oh. And you can tell Ciara definitely heard that. He doesn't comment. And he just asks, he's like, so, do you have a favorite cocktail? It's like, who has a favorite cocktail? It's like, what the heck? I don't even know if I can name a cocktail. What is considered a cocktail versus a drink? But she's like, French 75, named after some gun in World War II because of the big kick. Server comes up. So what does Oliver do? I'll have 2 French 75s. It's like, oh, you're cool. You're ordering for your date because you asked her what she likes. Whatever. He's like, so that's your favorite drink, favorite movie? And she's like, Truman Show. And I'm like, oh man, really? And he's like, classic. And he's like, food? And she's like, grilled cheese with mayonnaise. And he like kind of scrunches his face. And she's like, yeah. And she laughs. She's like, you're just going to have to trust me. You're going to have to try it. And she's like, okay, my turn. Do you have any siblings? He's like, younger brothers, but we're not close. He's like, what about you? It's like, wait a minute. You asked her 2 questions. She asked you 1, and now you're jumping into whatever. So he's like, what about you? And she's like, older sister, and we're very close, but we're very different. And she's like, question. You said that you had only read about this place when the woman who took your coat had clearly seen you here before. So he chuckles and he looks to the side because he's busted. And he's like, this is embarrassing. I was hoping you didn't catch that. And she like chuckles. She's like, what? You can tell me. He's like, okay, the truth is, and she's like, mm-hmm. He's like, that I came here a couple weeks ago for work. I wanted it to feel like we were discovering the city together. And I don't know. It seemed like a harmless omission at the time. He's like, I don't know why I did it. But it's like, okay, dude, you just met her and you're lying already. That's that's like not a good start. And he's like, I think you make me nervous. So yeah, it's all her fault. That's why you're lying. And she's like, I work in tech support and I wear disposable fashion and I make you nervous. He's like, yeah. And she like laughs. He's like, you're so cool and you're so pretty. And I don't know. I just wanted this to go well. Can we please start over? And she's like, okay. And he's like, hi. And she's like, hi. Blah. So the night continues. More stories are exchanged. At one point, she talks about like ghosts and like ESP. She said that her dad watched a show called In Search Of, and there was an episode about UFOs. That's what got her into space. And she talks about going to the Kennedy Center when she was 14, like in a class trip. There's a presentation on the creator of NASA. And then the cutest boy in 8th grade sat next to her in the theater. She's had a crush on him. And she tried to play it cool. And then suddenly the movie stopped and it went pitch black. And we could hear this low, disorienting rumble. And Oliver's like, were you scared? And she's like, yeah, a little, but mostly excited. So she could tell that something big was about to happen. Then the walls were no longer there, and the dark became the sky, and all of a sudden, the Atlanta shuttle was there, like suspended, like it was flying. And she's like, Tyler grabbed my hand, that was the kid's name, and I felt like I was flying too. And then Oliver's like, what happened to him? And she's like, who, Tyler Mirko? And he's like, did he end up falling for you in the end? And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, too hard, actually. And then I broke his heart. So the server asks if they want another round. Oliver says, definitely. And she's like, don't we have to go? And he chuckles and he's like, actually, I blew it. Movie starts in 10 minutes. And she's like, oh. And it's like, okay, really? Was there even a movie? There is. And he's like, I mean, we could run, but I don't like rushing. It's like, dude. And she's like, no. And then what? We're missing the trailers. He's like, right. So let's stay here. But it's like, that seems a little fishy. And he's like, maybe we can catch a film later this week, if that works. So she nods. He orders 2 more drinks. And, she says she likes it there. It feels like if you drove past, you'd never know what was on the inside. And then he's like, so you like secrets? And it's like, what? What are you talking about, dude? And she's like, no, I didn't say that. I like reveals. I like discovering things. Secrets are obviously the opposite. They're about withholding. I think secrets are fudging destructive. And then he's like, doesn't say anything. She's like, you don't agree? And it looks like he's like pouting a little, like a little kid. And he quickly replies, he's like, oh, yeah. And chuckles softly. He says like, yeah, right. And then he says he has to go to the bathroom. He's like, I'll be right back. So then he's on his phone. There's a answering, a voicemail. You've reached Troxler Psychotherapy. If this is an emergency, please dial 911. Beep. I still can't do beep noises. So he exhales. He's like, I think I'm doing it again. And I don't know what's going to happen if you don't pick up the fudging phone. And he ends the call. So it's like, okay, is this guy like a psychopath? He doesn't know what's going to happen. Does it mean he's going to kill her? So he ends the call. He walks past the smiling hostess, and then she kind of has like the surprised look on her face when she, sees his expression. So he returns, and he's like, let's go. He's like, I called an Uber. And she's like, okay. But it's like, what about the drinks? They just ordered another round. Did he even pay? We must not see that. And then he like grabs his coat like off the sofa, like with force almost. And then like outside, they're like walking down the sidewalk. And she's like, I'm really glad that we did this. And then he just starts kissing her while they're walking. And then he pushes her kind of against her like a railing or whatever. And then he like pulls back after a bit. He's like, sorry. And she's like, no. She's like, why? She's like, don't be. He's like, I really don't want to mess this up. And she's like, you won't. You're not. Uber arrives. And then he asks where she lives. And she says the address. So he tells the driver, he's like, forget Seaport. He's like, 127 Josephine, please. And she gets in. She's like, we can share. And he's like, it's nice out. I think I'm going to walk. And she's like, okay, talk soon. He's like, definitely. And he closes the door. And he sits there as a SUV drives away. So it's like, what was that about? And then it cuts to today. Lee's walking in the building, looks around, sees broken glass to the fire alarm, goes down the hall, puts some like do not touch stickers by like the mailbox and like by the trash can, puts it like gloves on, opens the door to the apartment, closes it right away because of the smell. And she texts Carl like 3 skunk emojis. Smells like your marriage in here. Carl's like talking to the property manager guy. They're like down in parking garage. He's like rambling. Carl responds. He's like, no, that's your tampon. And she laughs softly. Then Carl's like, who pulled a fake fire alarm, Kevin? And he's like, no clue. And Carl's like, I'm going to need you to get the surveillance, lobby, elevator, and hallway. So, and then he's like, do the numbers correspond to apartment numbers? And then they're like, yeah, there's a dolly in spot 11. So then Kevin's like, well, I guess he doesn't own a car. And he tells Kevin to go find out who lives there. So then it's day 4. Ciara, she walks to her place. She's on the phone. She says it's nice. Well, it's livable if you like termites. And it's gross. We see like termites in there. She's like, but it's close to the T. that she doesn't need a car. The neighborhood is definitely on the way up. So then we see what she's talking to her sister. And she says that mom was asking how she's doing today because she worries about her living in a ghetto. Sierra's like, tell her I'm not living in a ghetto. And her sister says, she's like, well, you should tell her. And she'll give her a call. And Sierra asks how she's doing. So her sister's name is Shyla. And she says that their mom is bat poop. I guess she's like kind of losing it. And Sierra's like, she says something like, you're a saint for being there for her. She's like, I feel like I should be there. And Shyla's like, no. It's like, you need to be there, making some real money. But it's like making money doing tech support or whatever. She's like, repo people, her sister's like, repo people came for the Subaru. And so I moved it to the Costco parking lot, but, can't hide the house there. And Sierra says that she's going to Venmo her, as soon as she can. And her sister asks her if she's met anybody. And Sierra's like, well, I met some people at work. And her sister's like, are you on the apps? And Sierra's like, God, no. And her sister says, she's like, well, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. And Sierra's like, why wouldn't I? And her sister says, because whoever he is, he's not good for you. And, and you don't want to hear about it or something like that. So we see Oliver at work. He's in the conference room with a bunch of people. He's talking about some designs or something like that. Then after he talks to his supervisor, he's like, oh, you did a good job, whatever. Oliver says, thanks for giving him a chance. And then he has this weird look on his face. He calls Sierra. She's lying in bed on her laptop. And he says he was hoping she'd want to maybe do a redo on that movie, no pregame this time. And he's like, is tonight too soon? And she's like, no, not at all. So he tells her where it is. He says it looks old school. And then he kind of like stops because he sees this lady talking to, I think, his supervisor down in the lobby. And he's like staring at the lady like the super creep that he is. It's like, who's this lady? Because he's only been there 2 months. I don't know. And I don't know if we're supposed to know who it is. Sierra, she's standing outside. It's like windy. And she's watching some teens. There's these 3 guys, these 3 kids. They look young. They look like teens. I don't know. Maybe they're older. I don't know what the point is. But then Oliver walks up behind her and like startles her. And then she says she brought a bottle of Jack to sneak into the movie. And then they head in. And then he like looks at the 3 teens. It's like, what's going on there? Inside, they're like sitting up in the balcony. There's a lot of people for a space documentary. Oliver puts his hand on her knee and she looks at it, and he kind of like leers at her. Like, then when the Apollo explodes after flight, he like laughs loudly, and like other people like look at him, and she looks at him and she's like surprised, and he just like kind of chuckles softly and like raises his eyebrow. I was like, man, she needs to excuse herself to the bathroom and just run out. And then as the movie's letting out, they're talking about it. And she's like, all you see is a crash. You don't see him eject. And Oliver's like, yeah, but he did, or he would have been dead before he got to the moon. She says that, you have to admit that wasn't funny. And he's like, yeah, it was funny. I mean, that almost every one of those tests ends in ejection. It's like the climax of the thing. And she's like, you think they were doing it because they thought it was fun? He's like, yeah. Have you ever been skydiving? She's like, no. Have you? She's like, I've never been skydiving. Have you? He's like, no, but I know what it feels like. She's like, want to see? And he stands up, but it's like, okay, they're in the balcony. So you're going to throw her off? And she's like, see what it feels like to go skydiving? He's like, yeah. She's like, what are you going to do? You're going to push me off the top of a building? Which maybe he would. And he's like, don't worry, you'll love it. So they're walking. She asks, how he knows about this place. And he says that his firm bid on the project, but they lost out. So he studied the plans. He said the flood mitigation system, he's like, it's fascinating. So he says the industrial human reduction fan will give you the thrill of a lifetime. So they're at this place. He like lifts her in front of this big fan. There's like these 2 big fans, like, like maybe 3 feet up or something like that. He tells her to turn around and lean forward. And he's like stands behind her, and then she's like kind of going into, so it's pulling. I guess it's kind of similar, whatever. And then she kind of like leans back into him, and she wraps her arm around his neck, and then he starts kissing her neck, and they're smooching. I think he says, yeah, he tells her to come home with him. So then they're smooching against the wall in the hall, or then maybe they're inside, and they go inside. She's deeply impressed by his place, especially compared to hers. And he asks her if this is how she pictured it. And she's like, your apartment? And he's like, no. And then he's like, take off your jacket. And he's like, so do I make you a drink? He's like, I got a really great scotch that I got from a client. We could drink our drink and pretend to be interested in whatever it is that we're talking about, but we aren't really going to be listening, are we? We'll be thinking about what happens next. And she's like, and how do I know, how do you know what I'll be thinking? He's like, because I'll ask you and you'll tell me. So she drops her coat, starts kissing him. Then they go in the bedroom. Doot, doot, doot. And this is where it's like, doot, doot, doot. Later, he's like lying there. He's lying in bed on his back. She's like laying on her side. And he's like, are you asleep? And she opens her eyes. She's like, no. And she's like, can I ask you something? He's like, sure. She's like, that scar that you have, it's like on his sides, like on his ribs. She's like, when did you get that? He's like, it's a long time ago. And she's like, what happened? He's like, it was an accident. And I guess that ends the conversation. And then later we see her sit up and there's like a loud exhaling nearby and Oliver isn't in bed. And then there's like a groaning exhale. And it's like, what the heck is going on? She quietly walks. And then we see that there's like a mattress covered in plastic in another room. And then there's more exhaling nearby and she stops. He's doing like some sort of like Tai Chi or whatever. You know, he's just like breathing very loudly. And, you know, he's sitting on the floor in the living room, his back's to her. So then she like walks back to the bedroom. In the morning, her jacket is folded super neatly, like on the island in the kitchen. He's there making coffee. She comes out dressed and, you know, she says, hi. He asks, you know, how she slept. And, you know, she says, fine. She asks, you know, how about him? He says, I didn't. He's like, I have problems in that department. She's like, have you been to a doctor? And he's like, many, many times. Then she's like, do they know why? And he's like, oh, same reasons as everybody else. Inflation, climate change, social media, drug addiction, mass murder, disposable fashion. I mean, seriously, I don't know how anyone with a brain can sleep on this planet. So he's like, is he saying that she doesn't have a brain because she slept? He's like, Putin just needs to bite the bullet and drop the fudging bomb already. Coffee? And she's like, no, thank you. I actually really have to get going. He's like, I can make you some eggs. And she's like, nah, I'm good. Where can I catch the T, the train? He's like, yeah, the red line's down A. You can make a ride on Broadway. She's like, perfect. And he's like, call you. And she's like, I would hope so. So he gives her a smooch. And then more smooches. She's like, I got to get going. And then he, you know, she's like pressed against the island and in the kitchen. And he keeps like going. And then he like kind of picks her up and plops her on top and like lifts her dress up and doot. And she like knocks over like a bowl of like sugar or something. I was like expecting him to freak out, but then it cuts to today. maybe he doesn't know. I say maybe he kills her then. There's a bunch of forensic. They enter the building. Carl rides up with them. Carl and Lee texts him saying, you know, got the warrant. He replies like on my way. Then he gets an alert on TikTok that Hannah tagged him in the video. He starts watching the elevator and the guys get out and it almost closes on him. Then he sits next to Lee. They're putting like on forensic like booties and stuff like that. He's like, there's something I need to tell you. That Hannah witch from last night, she posted this. So it's a video of Hannah with his gun. And Lee's like, is that her hands on your weapon? He's like, I knew it was coming. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm done with the city, this job, all of it. It's like the universe is telling me, run for your life, Carl. Get out while you still can. Then she puts her phone to her face. She's like, hello? Yeah? Sure, I'll tell him. And she's like, the universe actually wants you to know it doesn't revolve around you. And he's like, you're not hearing me. He's like, you're not. He's like, I cannot live like this anymore. And she's like, please just, and she like sighs. She's like, today is already fudged up enough as it is. Okay, can we just, she's like, are you ready to do this? And she tells some officers are ready. But it's like, shouldn't her hair be in like a hairnet or a cap or something like that? Because, and then they're wearing the regular clothes. Like, isn't there like fibers that could fall off or whatever? Officers go in, they have masks on and like their guns out. Lee sees some dead flowers in a vase on the table. They all have masks except for Lee and Carl. She like looks in a closet. There's a safe open. It's empty. There's like condoms in a drawer. The moldy bread on the plate in the kitchen. Then there's some like organic panic pamphlet or something like that. There's a green jacket on a bar stool. So that's probably what we saw before. So does Sierra have a green jacket? Then Lee finds like a matchbook from a cocktails place. She looks in the bedroom, like a different one. It's like a mess, which is not like what he would do. And there's a sign, could this be the magic at last? Which doesn't seem like it would fit there. Lee finally holds the mask up to her face, but she doesn't hook it on. I guess she's like too cool to wear it. And she like looks at that sign. And then it cuts to day 5. Sierra's walking to work. This lady walks up behind her, taps her on the shoulder. She says that she's Jane. She's from the cocktail place. She's like, I couldn't help but notice you coming from the crossings. She's like, I saw you with Oliver. It's like, how do you know him? And Sierra's like, we went to college together. His roommate dated mine. And Jane's like, really? And Sarah's like, I really don't want to be rude, but I just don't see how this is any of your business. And Jane's like, I'm just warning you to be careful. He's not who you think he is. And Sierra's like, yes, he is. And I really have to go, but it was nice meeting you. Ish. I love that she added that ish. And then she's like, okay, good luck. And Sierra like walks down to go to the train. She pauses and looks back at Jane, takes a couple pics of her walking away, but doesn't really get a clear shot of her face. On the train, she like looks at the pics. And then there's a picture of Oliver's business card or something like that, and a picture of a syringe. It's like, where did that come from? And then the picture is like the safe in his closet. And she puts her phone away, takes out her notebook and pen, and we see NASA shuttle list. And it has the ones that she wrote down there. And she turns some pages and she writes Jane ? So it's like, Then it cuts to today. Lee and Carl enter the bathroom. They see a decomposed body in the bathtub. So Carl's wearing his mask. She's just holding hers. And she removes it right there to talk. It's like, wouldn't like she be breathing in particles and stuff? But she's like, what would I ever do without you? And so we can see like a rib cage of the body, the decomposing flesh or whatever. Then it cuts to day one. We see Sierra putting on makeup, very strange, like very dark like lines on their like foundation, whatever. Her eyes are wide, but again, like it's why is this foundation so dark? And then she's like practice. She's like, I'm Sierra. Hi, I'm Sierra Wise. And then later she has a jacket on. The different jacket, not the green one, I don't think. And she has her NASA bag. She's in front of the mirror. She's like, "Oh no, I'm one of those people who's not really from anywhere. My dad was in the Navy, so I grew up all over. But yeah, I just moved to Boston a week ago for my work." And we see like several like printed ID badges of her, like along with scissors and stuff to like make her ID. So it's like not a real ID badge. And we see her walk to the grocery store. And then she pulls back her jacket, like so it's like hanging off her shoulders, or so her bare shoulders are showing, and she walks in. So it's like, what the heck is going on? Is she not who she is? Was she there did she know he was going to be there? Is she there? You know, she's showing her bare sexy shoulders. Oh no. So it's like, what the heck is going on? And the fact that she's practicing, I mean, that is her name. I'm pretty sure, I think, maybe not. So this is the point. It's like, wait, he's got a different last name. She's practicing, but maybe he's just maybe he's just undergoing medication, whatever treatment, wanted a new start because he did something, but maybe the safe was empty. Is that his body in a tub? And then she took the safe and ran for the hills. So as I was watching this, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to watch the rest. But yeah, but then and this is the point. I don't know if I'll continue covering this because I hate that all the episodes are out, and we'll see. But that was the first episode. So if you watch more than one, let me know how it is. Don't spoil it. Should I continue right away or just at some point? Okay, and now the movie feature is Psycho Killer. And I really wanted to like this more than I did. I probably liked it more than other people liked it. And there's definitely some promise. There's potential with it. There's a couple little things. It's like, whatever. And then it's like the ending. It's like, I almost felt, this is one of those movies where I'm like, did I doze off for part of it? Like what's going on? It's like, this is kind of weird. So the other thing, it's a 91-minute movie. The budget is apparently less than 10 million. So it's like, okay, that's good. Low budget. That could be cool. And I saw like on TikTok, some random person was talking about the movie. They're like, oh, this trailer came out, but then he was a little concerned because there's like no promotion for it. Like he hasn't really heard anything about it, and there's like no early reviews. And I was like, So then Thursday, the day of, I'm like, I don't normally do this because I don't want to be like biased in any way. So I was like, okay, I go to Rotten Tomato, no reviews. So that means there were no like preview showings, no critic reviews or whatever. That could either be a bad thing because sometimes studios won't screen movies if they know it's not good. It's not going to get good reviews, so they don't want to put that out there in a way to kind of trick people into going to see it, hopefully, and then they realize it's no good. But then on the other hand, if this is a small budget movie, maybe there's just no promotion, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So then I was kind of like waiting. It's like, okay, what are the reviews? What are the reviews? What are the reviews? Finally, the popcorn meter popped up. So right now, as I record this is probably going to change. Maybe it's going to go down. I don't know. It's the popcorn meter is a 32%, and that is based off of 50 plus verified ratings. The tomato meter or whatever, this is not good. It's at a 0%. Now, this is where you need to understand and remember, not that you need to understand, this is where you need to remember how Rotten Tomato works. It's not saying that the critics gave it a 0 out of 100. This is saying that 0% of those who reviewed it gave it favorable reviews. And right now, this is based off of 20 reviews. So there's not a lot of reviews for this. Like Hollywood Reporter said the climax proves surely ridiculous, but by that point, you've given up on the film anyways. New York Times, one could be forgiven for thinking that Pallone and the screenwriter Andrew Kevin Walker wanted to prank audiences. Not actually terrifying, didn't work. Let's back up a bit, because the movie is written by the guy who wrote 7 and 8mm. And then it's produced, it's from the producers, I think, of Barbarian, which Georgina Campbell was also in, and a producer of Weapons. So there's some people involved with this. The director, Gavin Pallone, this is his like major motion directorial debut. And when you watch it, like even like the opening credits, it's a little rough. There's like some satanic symbols. Like, oh, this is going to be kind of creepy. It starts off really well, or pretty well. And but then it's just it gets a little like, what? How's this happening? And this is where it's like, did I miss something? Like, what is going on? So basically, just what's going on. There's this dude driving in a car. We don't really see his face ever. Just he's got these big sunglasses, long hair, middle of nowhere. And then this state trooper starts following him. So the guy is just like looking, and then he like pulls over. He didn't get pulled over. He just pulls off to the side of the car. So the officer turns on his lights, pulls up next to him, gets out. He's like, is there a problem? Are you having car trouble? And the guy's like, no. He's like, I was just tired, so I thought I'd pull over. And so then the guy's like, okay. He's like, can I see your, license or registration? And he's like, oh, I'll have to find that. So he's like, okay. And, so he like kind of steps back to his car, going back to the squad car. And another state trooper comes from the opposite direction, other side of the road. It's Georgina Campbell. And we find out, they're like talking to each other. She's like, everything all right? He's like, yeah. And she's like, did you run the plates yet? He's like, not yet. And then they're married, because he's like, oh, can you make me meatloaf or something like that? She's like, I'll probably be in bed by the time you get home, whatever. So then, whatever, the little talking, they're talking their little radios. She drives off, but then she decides to turn around, and she pulls up behind him. She sees her husband going up to the car, and then the driver grabs him, shoots him, takes off. And she's like, freaks out. She gets out of her car, shoots, she hits the back windshield, shoots at the car. He takes off. And it's like, like a muscle car type of thing, a Dodge, maybe, I don't know what it was. And she goes to her husband, and he's like shot like in the neck or chest or something like that. And he's like, and basically he doesn't make it. And this is one of those moments where I'm kind of taken out of the movie for a second. And, this is what I said about The Strangers, Chapter 3, or just The Strangers in general, where I don't think people really think about like the impact of that. Like, imagine losing your loved one, or like seeing your spouse, your loved one, get shot right in front of you. I mean, this is like, man, being a police officer, I would not. It's like, it's such a dangerous job, and it sucks that we live in a world where there's this possibility. But she literally saw her husband get shot, and he dies, and there's like nothing she could do about it. The guy's gone. He takes off. And it's like, what do you do? Does she go after him, leave her husband sitting there? Because, she calls, dispatch, whatever, need an ambulance and everything. And now she's has to deal with that, that her husband is gone. So, and then, she has to go to therapy, she's just whatever. She's going to take some time off. And like her dad's like, kind of like, you shouldn't do this. So basically she wants to go after this guy. And, we find it. So that this guy, he's a serial killer. There's a trail of people that he's killed. She's trying to get information from like other places and, other, FBI or other, and they're kind of like, who are you? Why don't you just go back to, your jurisdiction type of thing. And she ends up getting like different clues, and she's like on following him, getting closer and stuff like that. And then it turns out, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but there's like this satanic ritual connection, and, whatever's just driving him to do this. We also have like Malcolm McDowell's character and this other church cult. And, she's like, tries warning like the FBI that, she thinks that he's going to go here. Cause we see him, he sits outside like a pharmacy, and, and like in the morning he watches this lady, like, the pharmacist, whatever, she goes in, and then he like waits for her. This is one thing that bothered me. So he like waits all day for her, to work. And when she gets out, she gets in her car, she lights a cigarette. He's in the back seat. And this is a big dude. It's like, how is he sitting in the back seat and she doesn't see him? It's like, yeah, it's dark, but you're in a parking lot, whatever. So it goes from there, and then it's like, okay, what is his plan? What's he trying to do? And then when you see his plan, it's like, wait, what? And this is probably where like some people are like, what is going on? And then obviously there's gonna be a big confrontation. What's gonna happen and everything? And so yeah, it's just and when he's out, he wears like this mask. It's kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not a gas mask or something like that, but that adds to the creepiness, and then that's kind of cool. I even noticed like in the credits is like, I forget what his name was, Psycho Killer, whatever, like mask created by so-and-so. That I'm glad that whoever created is getting the credit, because hopefully, I don't think it's really going to become an iconic mask. Maybe. Well, the movie's not going to do well. People are probably going to, unfortunately, try not to think about it. But I'm glad, it should be like, if like who designed, Michael Myers mask or whatever, we know the story about that, whatever. But I feel like I'm glad that there's that recognition in case it does take off, because, the person responsible deserves that credit. But yeah, I don't know. This is one of those things where I feel like, it's like, do I need to watch this again? But yeah, I don't know. It just felt weird. Like I said, 91 minutes. And this movie has been in development for a while. Apparently, so Andrew Kevin Walker wrote this, and, he's done, other stuff. And so this is off of Wikipedia. So it says the script appeared online in 2007. an early draft of it. 2009, March 2009, Fred Durst announced that he was going to direct it. And it was scheduled to begin shooting in August 2009. Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit, he did it all for the nookie. He's going to break stuff. He's like a chainsaw. It's like, what? And then he said it's like, he's done films before. I looked him up as like filmmaker and rap or whatever, singer, rock, whatever you want to call it. He said it was going to be his next film. So like he's apparently done some films before. I'm not familiar with anything he's done. However, by November 2010, Gavin Polone was set to direct the film instead, and that Eli Roth and Eric Newman would produce it. But then things didn't quite happen, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then it finally happens, now. So I saw someone, I don't remember where, someone said that this was filmed a couple years ago. I don't know if that's true. Filming, So on a production budget of under $10 million, principal photography was completed by 2023. Why, if it was filmed in 2023, why is it just coming out now? And it almost feels like it was rushed. So it's like you could have done some reshoots, but reshoots are expensive, and maybe didn't have the budget for it. I don't know. Yeah, so according to this, 0% of the 20 critics' reviews are positive. Website's consensus read, what? Better, I don't even know what that means. Better run away. I don't know. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 33 out of 100 based on 4 critics indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Josh Corngut of Dread Central gave the film 2 out of 5 stars, wrote, "For a script from one of our most important living screenwriters, Psycho Killer feels strangely dated. It leans on familiar genre devices and never meaningfully reframes them." William Bibiani of The Wrap wrote, "It's a rudimentary cat-and-mouse thriller with laughable ideas about Satanism and an absurd, cringy ending." I mean, judge for yourself. Go in it with an open mind. Maybe see a matinee. Maybe wait till it's streaming somewhere. I mean, I would say, see it in a theater. Help the movie out, because it's not going to do well. But I mean, if it can, at least $10 million budget. So right now, I mean, it's $250,000. So I don't even know if it's going to make $10 million. But there is something, again, I love seeing movies in a theater. And there is something, I feel like if you watch it like in your living room in a bright, that's going to affect it. So I don't know, but you definitely should see it. I mean, it's unfortunate that it wasn't better. I don't know what more to say about that. And again, I'm baffled that if this movie was filmed in 2023, it's like, what have they been doing with it? It's like, because there's definitely something missing. And I was going to say I'm not one to judge, but that's kind of the point. We are judging, but it's like, people had to have watched it, and they're like, okay, this is the best thing that we can do. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just missing something, but I still think it's worth seeing. Just keep in mind, I like going to the movies. And with that, I think that's it. That's going to be the end. There's nothing more to say. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I've been doing some DC Comics Silver Age look backs, and I'll probably do some more, but I think this week we'll do an off of mine. I have a topic in mind, so we'll see how that goes. But if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. And you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That is ko-fi.com/gman from heck. All right, what is going to be next week? I'm really excited for this. So next week is Scream 7. I'm somewhat excited for that. I'm curious. I like the franchise. I can't say that the movies have been over the top spectacular, but they're fun. They're entertaining. I'm curious where they're going to go, and it just seems like just lately they've really been chugging along, like making these go, because it's like we had a little gap for a while, and we'll see. We got Nev Campbell back, so that's exciting. What I'm really excited for is I'm seeing it in the theater with the Screen X. That's what they're calling it, and it's I've heard that this theater put this in there, and I'm like, how does that work? I haven't actually seen it. I have no idea. I've just seen like a video, and it's basically you have your main screen, and then there's kind of like screens on the side. I don't know how that works. If the movie, I would imagine a movie has to be filmed for that. Because it's one thing, if you go to an IMAX movie, IMAX movies they're a little more, not necessarily square. They're not as rectangular as a regular movie. There's extra stuff at the top and the bottom, and so that's why if you see a movie that was filmed in IMAX in a regular theater, you're missing out on some stuff. So with this, if there's stuff happening on the side, I just don't know how it's going to be. It's not like they can't stretch it and then, because it still wouldn't fit. I'm just really curious. So I will be reporting on that. I think on the YouTube video I saw, I think someone said that the creases kind of were a little distracting. But we'll see. So maybe this is a bad idea, but we have that. So then we'll also have Wonder Man. We'll have Hijack. I'm not sure. Maybe another 56 days. We'll see if I get around to that, because I think Monarch. I think that starts up this week. Season 2. What's it called? Monarch Legacy of Monsters or something like that. The Godzilla King Kong thing. I'm pretty sure that starts just this week. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm really curious how that Screen X goes. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourself. I hope you haven't gotten sick like I have, sort of. Or was I sick? I don't even know what you call it. I hope you're taking care of yourself, doing fun things. I hope you remember, be good to each other.